Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We've got Ideas by Elliot. Hey, folks, you're listening to Ideas by Elliot. And we're here with Ideas by Elliot. Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special live edition of the Ideas by Elliot podcast, sponsored by Camera Corner Studios, Yike Salon, Trishanelle Law, and Release Wire. With your host, web marketing mogul, Elliot Christensen. This is his chance to take a break and talk in depth with the most interesting people we know. There are no rules, there is no censor, there are no do-overs. It's raw, unscripted, and never edited. And now, here to open the show with the much lesser-known second verse of our national anthem, Max Christensen.
In dead silence reposes. What is that which the breeze o'er the tower rings deep, as it fitfully blows, half conceals, half discloses. Now it catches the gleam of the first morning's beam, in full glory reflected, now shines on the stream. 'Tis the star-spangled banner, oh long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Awesome. Am I on?
We just sing the most important song on the web.
I think I'm on. I'm on the screen. That's kind of weird. All right. So I am here with my four panelists that I've been telling the whole world about. And I'm going to probably get you guys out of order because it's not in the order that you're sitting on. To my left, I don't know what that looks like to anybody else, but to my left, I have Adam Funk. There we go. Awesome. And Mark Becker. And I'm just going to, they gave me some brief bios, so I'm just going to run through some things. So Adam Funk is a graduate gemologist, certified gemological appraiser for diamonds and gold. Am I saying any of this right?
Yep, you got it. You're nailing it.
Chair of the design committee for On Broadway. I don't know if anybody's heard of that place. Broadway bid board member, secretary of Brown County Republican Party, single dad of two awesome boys, and a fashion blogger.
Indeed.
howtobeswell.com. So that is Adam Funk. And then we have Mark Becker. And he is business manager at Lemieux Toyota, a 2015 Future 15 recipient, and a former BC GOP chairman, that's Brown County Republican Party.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just got word that our listeners couldn't really hear the singing very well. It was kind of quiet, so we might have to recap it at the half point.
Halftime show.
All right. Okay. So then off to my right, then I have Rhonda Sitnikow, a self-employed stylist and community activist, and is it safe for me to say that you are a candidate for City Council of Green Bay?
Yes, it's safe. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So for District 4, we were all applauding. I'm just moving on to the next item.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
I got you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Audie, there we go. See, that's right.
There we go.
Beautiful. All right.
And then we have Daniel Jones, which is the esteemed founder of Release Wire. And I think I can say any other stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. I can say other stuff or not?
You can, yes.
Okay. So founder and producer of Newsmakers.
Newsmakers Podcast Network.
Okay. I didn't know how public that was.
Yep.
So, yeah. So he's actually starting up some podcast networking based in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So that's pretty awesome. So the first thing that I think we're going to do And you guys can, we're just here. We're just talking. We're just having fun, right? So jump in. Don't leave me hanging. Okay. I think the first thing that we're going to start with is just that list of questions that I briefly sent you guys. Okay. But I guess before that, I'd like to maybe zip through the list of candidates and get just a quick take from each of you guys on each of the candidates. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna go down the list of what was in that little spreadsheet that I gave you. So first one is Hillary Clinton. So I'll start with Adam, and you guys can talk over each other to a certain extent. It's not Fox News, so we don't want too much of that. But keep it lively, right? We want to have fun. So briefly,
I'm
we only have 2 hours.
I'm shocked that she's even a viable candidate. I really am.
Okay. Elaborate.
Well, committing crimes, major crimes, and not just misdemeanors. And she's not only not in jail, but also a front-runner candidate for her party, which is just amazing to me. I'm just flabbergasted at that.
We have a front runner on the other side too. I would love to talk about.
Sure. Of course.
He's crazy.
Okay, so we're gonna stick with Hillary Clinton for right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off topic. So anything else to add, or should we go on?
No, I think that's pretty concise enough for me.
You got anything, Mark?
Well, you know what, Hillary, I think she is a viable candidate. I think she's very strong. I don't agree with a lot of what she says, but she has a ton of experience. She was the Secretary of State, for God's sake. She spent 8 years in the White House, so she knows a lot more than any of the other candidates. You like to have someone that goes into the White House not knowing where the front door is, but knowing where all the back doors are and how to
You think her
get
keys
things
still
done.
work?
What's that? I don't. I think W probably changed some of those in between.
She might be able to get in the secret tunnel, though.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think she is going to be a very, very strong candidate. Like I said, I don't agree with a lot of what she has to say. Some I do, but
Do you think she's the overall front runner?
Right now, yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay, Daniel.
I have to agree. I think she is probably considered the front runner, and that's almost by default at this point. I look at the slated candidates that are out there on the Democrat side, and I'm just amazed that we are given 3 choices, of which one almost no one's heard of. The other one has some unique qualities, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But I think the party just assumed that Hillary was the candidate. As I'm sure she assumed in 2008 and now. And I think that may actually be a disservice for people who are consider themselves progressive or liberals at this point.
Okay, awesome. Rhonda.
Okay, I am going to probably not make friends saying this, but I would have to say she is my candidate. She's the one that I support at this point, especially watching what she went through during the Planned Parenthood, I guess if you want to call it a debate meeting. I think she held up really well, and I think she did a great job explaining her issues. And
what was that?
When she was basically put on the spot during the Planned Parenthood and the probably Benghazi and Planned Parenthood hearings. I think she did really well.
She was very, very strong in the debates.
Yep.
I agree.
So I don't know. People always bring up the Benghazi thing. And I feel like it's almost a no-win for her because either she did things on purpose or she did them on accident, and people find culpability either way, right? So what do you think about that? Any thoughts on that?
Oh, Scott Walker's still in office, right?
Well, he dropped out of the presidential race.
I got a mug.
You got a mug?
I did. Someone sent me a Scott Walker for president.
So you know what? Since we did kind of shift to Scott Walker real briefly, I guess I'd like some thoughts on that. Like, I was surprised that he dropped out so early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I was disappointed that he dropped out so early. I didn't think that he was really going to be a viable candidate to go all the way, but I would have liked to seen a little bit more from him on a national stage, at least on this level.
So for being such a fiscal conservative, it sounds like he sort of, I don't know, I'm not going to make any friends with my Republican friends, I guess, but like he kind of ran his campaign into the ground or let other people run it into the ground. I don't really know.
Well, you can't tell someone that you're going to build a wall across Canada and think they're going to continue to give you money.
That's not a good idea.
No, I don't think so.
So I think he was being a little sarcastic on that.
Yeah, no, I think he was serious.
I don't know. I get caught on those kind of things all the time where I'm kind of thinking out loud. If because I think he was responding to, well, why do we need a wall in Mexico? We don't have a wall in Canada. And he's like, well, maybe we should. And he got kind of caught on that. I actually feel it was more due to mismanagement of money.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I talked to a lot of different people, and that are in the know, and they were very surprised that he dropped out as well. He had obviously problems fundraising, and I think his advisors were really, really bad. With it, and it started with the logo. Anyone who buys contacts from America's Best knows what I'm talking about. And it kind of snowballed into the stupid ideas that he was coming up with. It was almost Trump-esque, where he was trying to just do things to grasp headlines, and it really wasn't working. And so then the fundraising sputters, and then he's like, tapping out, I'm done.
Okay, so the logo thing, to go back to Hillary, that's tough because like hers is like an H, and
have you seen Jeb's?
It's an arrow pointing to the right.
It looks like Yum Brands, for
It
God's
is.
sakes. It looks like the Taco Bell company that.
But
it's
it's super
it's
hard
awful.
because you have to be red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's seen
And
the fake Trump one?
The
that
fake
one's
one?
pretty awesome.
Oh,
the fake
does
one
it
with
have
the
a
hair?
toupee?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Okay, next candidate.
I want to go back to what you said, though.
Uh-oh.
You had said that you had hoped that his campaign went further.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is with the fact that our election cycle has gotten so ridiculously long, and so many of the people running are senators or governors or congressmen. How does that benefit the people of those states and the people of those districts when their governor or what have you is doing nothing but campaigning
Well, here's-
24/7?
If you want to ask that question, you could also ask the President of the United States. So he did it too. And when you look at people who are presidents and who are elected officials, it happens. It's the game of politics. And
No, and I agree,
do
but
I
I'm saying when we
necessarily-
know that they're not a viable candidate, which we know at certain points they're not viable candidates.
Yeah,
What's the benefit for them to continue running and not doing their job that they were elected for?
That I totally agree with. Like Lindsey Graham, well, he's not going anywhere. Some of the people like Mike Huckabee just sucks.
We're gonna skip those two for you now.
Yeah, right. But I mean, you do have a good point. When you have, I think it was like 18 at some point at the onset of the campaign, people running for the president of the United States, and they're at like 0.3%. Get out of the race, and what was it? Webb did that, and I don't
Well,
know.
not to mention, you can't really get enough out of a candidate to hear what they have to say about anything because there's 50 different people on stage, right? And so how much can you get out of each person each time they're going to speak? What can they really say in 2 minutes or something like that?
Right.
You know,
And at some
there's
point,
so
you're not running for
my
president.
comments on
You're
that.
running for vice president. You
Right.
want to be this.
well, and there's so many people, you can't really get any information out of them that you need in order to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
My comment on Scott Walker lasting longer on the national stage, I would have just liked to have seen him. It's a selfish motivation. I would have wanted to see what he could do and see him be groomed a little bit more because I think that may not be the last time that he is on a national stage. Maybe not for president, but
He needs to take care of his
something
own
else.
state and
Right.
get it going in a positive direction before he even thinks about doing that again.
And I want to go back to another comment that was made. Someone, and I believe it was you, said, that he had some really poor advisors.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is a problem for a candidate right off the bat. If you can't pick good advisors or you can't replace those advisors who aren't doing a quality job, what are you going to do when you're actually in office?
Well, I mean, that happens to so many
I was
different
waiting for the
candidates.
microphone to drop.
Okay. Yeah.
So now we got Martin O'Malley. We were on Hillary Clinton, even though we kind of deviated, which is awesome. Martin
who?
O'Malley.
Mark, who?
So that's sort of my reaction. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I put little bio things. So he was the governor of Maryland, and previous to that, he was the mayor of Baltimore.
I was kidding.
Which I believe is in Maryland.
Yeah, they're in good shape right now.
Yeah.
Baltimore's doing well.
So okay. So any other
Yeah.
comments on those guys? On those guys on Martin O'Malley?
Yeah, no.
Nothing.
No.
So yeah, okay. Well, then I'll switch over to you guys. Danielle, you got anything?
I have nothing on O'Malley.
So I mean, you got nothing, meaning like he shouldn't be there, or that
Honestly, I just, there's there's nothing. I mean, I just there's nothing that he has said that's actually gotten my attention whatsoever.
He's pretty beige.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
blends
Yeah.
into the background.
Well, not only that, his city didn't exactly. I mean, when all of that was happening in Baltimore, they didn't. No, they didn't. He didn't really.
I
I
said
don't
we
know. He
wouldn't have a
didn't.
soundboard.
He didn't have a very easy job, and he didn't do very well uniting anyone and trying to get over that.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about him either. All right. So Bernie Sanders. I think we all have things to say about that guy.
I guess I'm surprised again that he's another viable candidate with some of the stuff that he said and some of the positions he's taken on things. I mean, being
So recent polls, and I should just not to interrupt because I'm horrible at interrupting. Right. Hillary's at 52% if you average the top polls, recent polls, and Sanders is at 34.5%.
which is actually a pretty big number,
It-
and I think it paints a picture of just how polarized the general populace is, because they are gravitating towards candidates who are on the extreme left and right. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of middle ground with any of the candidates, for the most part. Anybody who's a front runner, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree he's left.
He's far left.
I don't know if that I would classify our front runner as on the other side as right.
Well,
know
extreme
if anybody
extreme
wants to own
maybe,
that, but-
extreme maybe, but
That's me. I don't know. Maybe I don't
don't
belong.
wanna
Maybe I
own
don't belong in
that.
either of these.
No
I'm
thanks.
looking at these and I'm like, I'm not red. I'm not blue. I don't know if I even belong.
You're
in,
purple.
in any of these. I'm purple.
But that,
Right?
yeah, I mean,
Totally
it's
purple.
it's
Bright
playing
purple.
into that narrative that people are looking for something more dynamic than those middle of the road, beige type of candidates. They're looking for somebody who's going to go and shake things up a bit. And obviously, Bernie Sanders is somebody that would shake things up a bit. I mean, there's some pretty crazy ideas that are coming from him. And
So, do you think that people actually want that though? Do they really? You want people that are going to have change, but you want to be the change you want.
yeah, but I think
Right.
I think they want something to grasp onto. They want somebody who's going to maybe be a mouthpiece and say the things that other people are afraid to say. And they're just looking for a champion right now.
So, we live in Green Bay, and we have some of those types of people in office here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them will remain nameless right now.
The crazy ones?
That's your word.
Can I name them?
I'm not going to name any of them. But
I think it's interesting, though. You said, that you feel he's very left, and I think that's a perception thing that I find interesting. Most people who consider themselves on the left think that most Republicans are very extreme, or most, libertarians are very extreme. Most people on the right think almost everyone who's liberal is very extreme.
but he
I
does.
don't consider
he-
Bernie
he-
Sanders to be
in.
as extreme.
He classifies
as you probably
himself
do.
as a liberal socialist, though.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
but
that's the point I'm making.
Right, but his definition of socialism is a little different than what
Sure.
I think yours would be, or anyone else. On
But he
on the
uses
right.
that word, and he knows that's inflammatory.
Can I
I
interject
do-
on this because
yeah.
I'm actually I vote Democrat.
Yeah.
I think he is extreme. I think his ideas are
Well,
actually.
no.
I worry. I really do worry. I mean, who doesn't want their college paid for, right?
But that's
Who's
yeah.
going to pay for it?
How do you do that, though?
How are you going to pay for that?
Totally agree, 1,000%.
I
Which
would
I know
love
is
to
not a
not have
number.
school loans to pay for, but I don't understand how that's feasible. I don't even think he's laid out how it's feasible, and I don't understand why no one's asking that question.
I
Either.
and I want to jump in.
I
on
was yelling at the screen.
Yeah, I know you were.
I want to jump in on something you said. You said that most Republicans view Democrats as extreme. Most Democrats view Republicans as extreme. I totally disagree with that.
I do too.
Because the right ones, way right, the Donald Trumps, they're gonna think that everybody, that Hillary Clinton's extreme. I don't think Hillary Clinton's extreme. She has some ideas that I think are way out there, but so does who's kind of a centrist. There are liberals that think that everything that he does is, but the vast majority of people, I'm not extreme. Adam's
Right.
not extreme. Rhonda's not extreme. We would rather work on a solution than punch you in the face and push something that we want through. And I think that is the absolute vast majority of people on both sides of the aisle.
I think most people are more in the center than they realize. I think most people perceive candidates as being further. And part of that might be because, typically candidates will run to the left or the right during the primaries and then come back to center.
I think there's
But-
a lot of candidates who have gone further, though, in the last 10, 15, 20 years. There's much fewer that are more centrist, and that gradient that you and I enjoy that is across the board isn't apparent on the national stage.
Well, and let's be real, they're speaking to their donors. That's what
Yep.
that's who they're speaking to. They're not speaking to, I guess, the American people. They're speaking to their donors. They need money for these campaigns, and that's why they get so extreme and so out there. They need press. They need to have, basically, next time they say something crazy, they're in the news, and then people are paying attention.
Which goes back to O'Malley, because he doesn't say anything that's really compelling one way or the other, and he doesn't get much attention.
No, you can't be beige and have donor
Right.
money.
And one person, you talk about Bernie Sanders. I think, like Rhonda, he's nuts, man. He's the Democrat version of Ron Paul. Ron Paul's freaking crazy, man, and so is his son. The things that
He
Bernie
is the
Sanders
Democrat
wants
version
to
of Ron
do.
Paul,
It's
absolutely.
exactly what
Yeah.
it is. And so it's not a good idea. Hillary, in preparation for this forum, one of the things that I did was I watched every single one of the Democrat debates that they've had. I watched speeches from them. I watched an entire Donald Trump speech. We'll talk about that later. I did. Yeah. We'll talk about
I
interesting.
have not been able to do that.
I did. It was 90 minutes of
Wow.
something that, we're censored here. So, but,
We're technically not.
well, yeah, but, it's,
No, I'm going
But
to
Max wants to
disagree with
play
you on
this
his
at
son,
school.
though. I think Rand's all right. I don't think he's as extreme as his father.
well, yeah, right. He's not as extreme as his father, but he's way, way too extreme, I think, for the party. But in terms of Bernie Sanders, in the last debate, I think it was a CBS debate, Bernie said something about how he wants, we should be like Norway. We gotta model this after Norway. And Hillary Clinton said, whoa, time out. We're not Norway, okay? The education reform and the healthcare reform, we cannot do that because we are not Norway. And he formulates so many of his ideas based on
That's a common trend on their left, though. They often compare things to how it was in Europe, or how even on the local level. I deal with it all the time. People are trying to model certain, infrastructure things after Denmark or Norway or the European countries, and the problem is we're not those countries. We haven't had the history that they have. We don't have the infrastructure built that they have. And
I would feel more comfortable
can't
with that
just fit
if
that
they
glove together like
if they
that.
compared the U.S. to the EU, not like comparing
That
it
might
to
be a little
Norway.
bit fairer
Because,
comparison, but
they're not providing continent-wide health care. They're not, they're not doing those things on a federal level. They're doing
Right.
them on
essentially
well,
state level,
yeah.
exactly.
So, but could all of you in this room agree that Bernie Sanders is rounding up the younger electorate compared to Hillary Clinton is not doing that? And that actually worries me because, as we saw with Obama, if you actually were able to get, the millennials invested in your political campaign, you win.
He's definitely appealing to the younger voters.
He's
And that's really
he is.
scary.
And that is something that it's such an interesting position to be a Democrat right now because I personally would I love to live in Bernie Sanders USA if everything worked out the way that he says it's going to, of
Right.
course.
Right.
But if I do the math,
as utopia.
right?
Who
Well, if
wouldn't?
I do the math, it
Why
doesn't
wouldn't?
work.
I
It doesn't
wouldn't.
work out that way. So
I actually think that we
you're
have
talking
we have
over
a bigger
me,
problem
Elliot.
I'm
You're
sorry.
talking over me, Elliot.
Sorry.
It's okay. That's right. I had to say it once.
I get uptight about
I
Bernie
had
Sanders.
to say it once. I'll just finish my thought on the electorate. So that's what I see happening, and I think that's great because, let's be honest, millennials are lazy when it comes to voting, and I think that's something that scares me quite a bit because they're the future of politics. And
But I think
I
that's
wonder-
happened pretty much with any generation.
it is, but to the same degree, we never saw a turnout like we did with Obama and with millennials. I mean, they just came out in droves, and I think that was great, and it made all the difference, and that's why he won
You
the
know
way
what,
he
though?
did.
Sorry to talk over
It's
you.
okay, you can.
To be fair, he's talking to them,
Right.
and I don't feel like the other candidates largely are.
Exactly.
I don't think any of the other candidates are talking
So-
to young people.
Right.
So if they're not, if they're talking to, middle-aged homeowners, that's who they're going to get to vote for him.
He's talking to them, but correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it the way it typically goes? Is if independents show up, that's the candidate that wins. So, and if you're going to be strategic about this as a Democrat, and I'm talking to any of my friends that are listening that absolutely, they don't like Hillary Clinton. If you do not show up and vote for the Democratic candidate, regardless of who it is, we're looking at possibly Donald Trump or
Or
heaven
worse.
forbid anyone else.
I don't think
There's a worse candidate
No,
than
I
Donald
don't think there is. I
Trump?
don't think there is. Okay. So
Bernie.
I wanted to go back real quick to the Bernie Sanders thing. I do think he is the only one who's really talking to young people, and that's a big problem. You know, young people have certain things that are important to them, and during the primary season, that's the time to really get them energized, but then you have to keep them. You know, going back to '08 with President Obama, he did a great job energizing the youth, and he got numbers that were ridiculous. Now, that unfortunately didn't continue as well during his presidency of keeping them engaged, but I think that's kind of a difficult task no matter what.
Yeah, but I think if you look at historically, with Obama, he didn't. I don't think he really got the young voters until it was the primary was over, because you had Hillary and you had him, and so they were vying. I mean, either one, if they would win, that's history, man. So I think they tried. They were battling each other out, and so I think the young voters kind of really didn't know a whole lot about either candidate until after the primary was over. And you talk about, is anybody talking to young voters? Well, on the Republican side, we can't, because we're trying to shut Donald Trump the H up. and then on the Democrat side, Hillary Clinton has all these different scandals and fake scandals and all these things that are going on, and she can't really mold her message the way that she wants. I would love to see a Facebook debate or a Twitter debate or one of those young companies say, we are just going to talk about student loan debt. We're going to talk about healthcare. We're going to talk about young jobs. That, I think, would really give the candidates an opportunity to shine, because I do think that there are a ton of candidates on the Republican side that have really good ideas. And frankly, I'd like to hear some of Hillary Clinton's ideas as well when it comes to dealing with some of those issues.
My concern with Hillary, though, is I truly get the impression that her viewpoints are so molded and shaped by what opinion is. And I just don't feel like you truly see, what she believes in a lot of stuff. It doesn't come across as genuine. And I think that's where I have a problem with her.
I think part of her problem isn't necessarily how she feels and what she believes in; it's how she delivers her message.
Absolutely.
The
And
Saturday
it's
Night
hard
Live
as a
very
woman. Well,
It's
no,
very safe.
but let's be real. As a woman, if you are powerful and forceful and you have a lot of energy and you're serious, you look like you're pissed off, and people dismiss you.
and if you don't, then people talk over you.
The Saturday Night
Right.
Live spoofs of her are
But I
perfect.
mean,
They're spot on.
they
I don't
really
know who
are,
the
and
actress
I-
is, but she portrays that awkwardness in the social setting and in the public eye perfectly, and that's exactly what Hillary does. I mean, she's very unrelatable. She's very
But as a woman, let me
detached.
finish my thought on this. As a woman, I think it's really hard to. You need to be able to. We can't. If we're not smiling enough, we're pissed off, and people don't like that either. So I think for her, it's like she's got a message, but she doesn't necessarily. I think she's tweaking it all the time, probably trying to figure out how to deliver it without looking either fakey and not genuine.
I think the tweaking, though, is actually doing more damage than good.
Well, yeah, I probably would be steering her in a different direction,
And I
but
think-
that way. But
It's funny because when you see her in a debate, she's awesome.
right,
And I've told many people this. The problem that the Republicans are going to have is they're going to have to learn how to talk foreign policy like Hillary Clinton can. There's absolutely nobody in the race that can do that. She was, from her time as Secretary of State, she, in the Senate, in the White House, she knows that like the back of her hand. And when she's in that debate, she's dialed in and she's really good. So, like you say, yeah, she's constantly trying to mold her message with, her online presence and her ads and all that. But when she gets out and it's just her, she's pretty good.
well, when she doesn't have a
kind of her only
script to
asset,
go
though.
off of, then
Right.
she's
That's
fine.
all you got to lean on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she is a woman, and there's
Right.
there's no model for that. You can look. They talk about looking presidential. That was Mitt Romney. That was his main claim to fame. He looked presidential, right? And I don't know if she looks presidential. We've never had a woman president, so maybe she is the model, but she's breaking.
But what
it
does
down.
that mean to be presidential?
I have no idea.
I mean, because how do you look presidential?
so
I think to a
don't
lot of
know.
people, you're an older white male.
Right.
We're gonna do a Twitter question. Somebody
Okay.
gave us a
Oh,
question,
wow.
an actual
Great.
question.
Sweet.
Cool.
So, well,
Oh,
Oh,
Cheat to win. So, all right, I think it's on the screen for the YouTube viewers. But can Mr. Funk elaborate on what laws were broken by Mrs. Clinton?
Boy.
All of them.
All of them. No, do we have all night? No, I mean, I don't think it's a big secret. I mean, the email situation alone, the server situation, her private server with government emails, I mean, there's some pretty black and white stuff that she's admitted to that just doesn't bode well for a presidential candidate, I think. I mean, if you're willfully doing things that are counter to what...
Yeah. So I have provided email to people, and I hear some of the numbers that are thrown about, and I heard like 30,000 or something. I really doubt there were 30,000 important classified emails.
But there shouldn't be any, is the situation.
And I recognize that she's in charge, but there are rules, and how come nobody else was enforcing those rules until after the fact? I'm confused by that.
I work
But
for a
we've
jewelry
talked so
store.
much about
I
her.
can't store my jewelry at my house. I can't take it all home at night and, hang out with it at home. I mean, that would be kind of a conflict. My boss would say, hey, you stole all our jewelry. If somebody broke into my house, it's not covered by my insurance policy. I mean, just because I'm in charge of the jewelry doesn't mean I get to take it and do
the
what
rest
I
of us
want
all
with
get
it.
our email at home.
Sure.
And it's no big deal. And whether it goes to if it was a private email server, it wasn't going to Yahoo Mail.
Yeah,
or
but the
something
rest
like
of us
that.
aren't the Secretary of State that's
No, I get
getting
that.
top secret stuff.
Right, but
Can I ask a
we've
question?
talked a lot about
go
the
ahead.
email situation, but Scott Walker has his own email problems, and we've had no
What?
problem, with that apparently.
So why do the two of you believe that she's still sitting there as a candidate for president? Why do you think that nothing's happened? Why do you believe she's still there as a candidate?
I don't think I can answer that question. That's why I said at the outset that I'm surprised that she is. I'm surprised that she hasn't been held to task for that and held accountable for that. I mean,
But what do you
there's
think the
just so
proper
many big
protocol would
question
be
marks,
to
who
take
on
care of
who.
that?
would hold
Who
her
would
accountable?
take that and hold her accountable? Like what do you think would have to happen?
Oh.
Well, I think that I kind of take the Bernie Sanders approach, where it's, I'm so sick of hearing about your damn emails. That's what he said. And I think the FBI did open up an investigation. I don't know what the status is on that, but I think that she does have some issues with her emails. But like you said, so does Scott Walker, and I think both of them are going to be worked out one way or another. And maybe it's going to be an October surprise, and all of a sudden Hillary's going to get in trouble, or maybe nothing will happen. So it's.
My point wasn't to say that she should be in jail. My point wasn't to re-argue that topic. My point was to say I'm surprised that with all of the big question marks that are hanging around her head, with all of the scandals that have been following her around, that I'm surprised that she's still a viable candidate. I mean, that's a lot of stuff for people.
But the
to
scandal
look
with
past
the Benghazi scandal, though, was put to rest by bipartisan committee. So I don't understand why that's even.
not by everybody in the general populace, not by the people watching the news.
No, but I mean, they actually formed a committee, a bipartisan committee, and they found her to be clean of what happened. So. Not
to mention, I think way too many conservatives pushed that issue so long that it kind of watered it down by the end,
Or
that everyone was so tired of hearing about Benghazi. And
The
it
only
became
thing that
just
really,
overkill.
really ticks me off is, with those emails, you saw, she knew within 2 hours of this that it was a terrorist, plan type thing. With that email that she sent to her daughter, and then she sent one to, I don't know who it was, but some leader of whatever Middle Eastern country. And then she went on for 2 weeks, and even during that, when the caskets were being unloaded from the plane, she said she made a comment about the video. That really ticks me off, because if you know exactly what it is, don't hide that from the American people. That's what drove.
And that's
drove
the
me
point that I'm
absolutely
trying
nuts.
to make. Is there's too many of those types of situations that are followed her around, that she's involved in, that
Right.
I would think that more people would say, you know what, enough is enough. We're just not interested anymore. So I'm surprised that people haven't done that with her.
Right, and
So do you think the truth hasn't come out?
no, I think
That's
it to-
irrelevant.
I think it totally has. And the truth, right? They've beat this
Right.
horse to death.
Right.
I think that kind of is part of the problem. As I said, though, I think they pushed it so much and so often and so far that most people who are concerned about their own lives really said enough. I've heard about it over and over and over. Nothing's really come of it. Nothing's changed. What are you going to do for me? What are you going to do to make my life better or my family's life better? I think the general, American people, which that term gets used so often, they want to hear, what are you going to do to protect me, or what are you going to do to make sure that, my life's better?
Did it make her more human, possibly, what happened with her? I mean, because that's something that people maybe can resonate with.
I always wonder if people in public life, if they're ever really allowed to tell the truth. And so sometimes you think that people actually would prefer to hear some sort of fairy tale or something packaged up to be the truth.
Not when, yeah. I mean, there are times when, yes. You ever seen the movie Men in Black?
Sure.
You remember there was a line in that movie where
They're not a sponsor. I think that we should get some dollars from them.
Ideas by Elliot does not represent the content of Men in Black. But when there was a line in that movie where the old guy, Tommy Lee Jones, said to Will Smith, "Do you have any idea how this world functions? It's because 99.9% of the people have absolutely," he said, "How many times are we seconds away from disaster, or a meteor is about to hit, or aliens are going to invade? The only reason the society functions is because they don't know about it."
Mm-hmm.
That is true. I totally agree for some different things. And that's why we elect these wonderful people to office to make sure we're safe, like you say, and that we don't know about it. But when it does happen, when our ambassador is killed, when people, that was a horrible, horrible night. And don't sugarcoat that. We have people that are dying, in the Middle East that are representing us in a really, really difficult part of the globe. And when they're killed by a terrorist, tell me they're killed by a terrorist. Don't tell me that some jerk made a movie and really ticked off a bunch of people and they decided to go out and kill.
But
Don't say that.
But the movie wasn't necessarily a good thing either, and there are people who did react to it. But I'm going to go back and say, yes, it's important, to say, this is what happened. But I look more at the fact that we have so many thousands of soldiers who have died, and we don't spend the time talking about that enough. We talk about
totally
the
agree.
Benghazi thing and what happened there, and I hear about it over and over and over.
Yeah.
Tell me about all the soldiers who died, and tell me about how their families are making do after the fact, because we've been in wars for what feels like ever. We are all over this world trying to solve every problem, letting soldiers die, and we're not really solving anything at this point.
Well, and the same people who go on and on and on about her Benghazi situation are fine to have homeless vets back in our own country. Like, they don't literally do any sort of legislation to help them out at all.
I mean, I don't think anybody's fine with that.
No, but they're not actually doing anything about it. They have, on the table, they have proposals, they have legislation, they have all of this there, but they don't actually make that happen for them. And the reality is they're still out there.
Maybe they should be considered criminals if they don't vote for that.
Well, I mean,
check
it's
their
just the
emails, too.
the hypocrisy
So
is terrible.
we have another Twitter question, I think. I believe. Ooh, very good. Faded in.
Hi, Becky.
So,
1960s Republican.
you guys all read it? So, if you do not like Trump, who do you like? Where's my 1960s Republican? That would be Rand Paul.
That would be Rand Paul. I was gonna say that we kind of got off topic and we hadn't gone through the rest of the list of the candidates.
Yeah.
But since
It's your
she
show.
brought up,
we're gonna do wherever it takes us.
since she's now brought up Trump,
Yeah.
I want to give my 2 cents about him. And Mark and I talked about this at length the other night, and he's certainly not my favorite candidate. And I certainly will acknowledge that he's a loose cannon, and there's some very frightening things about the guy. However, the caveat is he's lost the PC gloves, and he has said some things and made some comments and brought the conversation that so many people are afraid to have, but that really need to be had. I think that's why he's been so popular. Do I want him to win? Not necessarily.
But that's what happens when you don't sugarcoat it and when you
Right.
don't package it up into a nice political bundle.
I think
Meet
he's
your
done a
constituents.
huge service to the whole process and to this election season by opening up some of those conversations and by bringing things up that, there's problems, but people are just too afraid to say anything about it or too afraid to talk about it in the context that they need to be discussed.
Are we talking about Donald Trump?
Yeah.
No, he is.
Some of us are.
No, he is completely poisoning the American political scene, and it's embarrassing. It's just so.
Because of his viewpoints or because of how he's campaigning?
Not even necessarily. I think he's got a message somewhere underneath all of that hateful rhetoric. Imagine being a Muslim in this country right now, what that feels like. Can you imagine what that feels like? I mean, he's generalizing so many people and taking something and using it for his own political gain and really, completely dumbing down an entire group of people in this country at the same time.
This is one case, though, where I'm not sure if I 100% agree with that, because I think sometimes he, listening to him, he truly believes some of the stuff he's saying. I listened to an interview today with him on CNN, and he was adamant about the, the ban on all Muslims, and it did not come across to me as someone who is just saying it for political gain. I think he truly believes it, and, whether we agree with it, which obviously I don't feel that Trump is as calculated as, like I said, I think Hillary is. I think she thinks very much about how it's going to be perceived. I think he just says what he, whatever he feels.
Well, and it's not even constitutional, is it? I mean, you literally can't do
No,
that.
it's absolutely
It's
not.
not. It's not
Obviously
constitutional.
That's incendiary comment, and I'm not trying to defend every single thing he
Right.
says. That's not the point that I was making. The point that I was making, there's some comments that he said that, yeah, some people have perceived as on PC and a little incendiary, but they've spurred conversation.
Can
they've
you
caused other
give us
people
an
to-
example of that?
Well, I know he liked to use the derogatory term anchor babies. I know that was a really big thing he got in trouble for. However, that, and I don't condone the use of that term either, but that's a conversation that needs to be had. That's a problem that exists that needs to be addressed. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. There isn't a great answer
What are
for
anchor
it.
babies?
Yeah, exactly.
What are anchor babies?
Well, according to Donald Trump, I'm not saying that.
Well,
yet.
I believe, according to Donald Trump, is someone who's born to non-resident parents who
Someone crosses the border,
get
has a
citizenship
baby.
by nature of being born in the country.
One of the things that I like to do is I like to read political discussion groups. I like to pay attention to what, people who believe they're anonymous are saying, because I think a lot of times their core feelings come out that way. And I had posted this earlier today when Jon Stewart talked about the 9/11 first responders, and I had posted a story, and the comments on it were just so unbearable. And, I listen to so many people in these discussion groups talk about the same exact views that Donald Trump has. There's a reason why he, is leading in the polls for the Republican side, because a lot of, people who sit and watch conservative or listen to conservative radio all day long or watch Fox News all day long, this is really what they think. They think that the Muslims are here to get them. We had the shooting incident in, was it Nina this week? And I saw posted several times over and over, oh no, are the Muslims here? Are they coming for us? I mean, it's scary to me that so much of the, again, I'm going to go with American people, are definitely afraid of all Muslims. And what they don't realize is they're probably working with people who are Muslim and have no idea.
Well, that's
Okay,
exactly
hold on,
right.
Hold on. Look,
We have another question when you guys.
Oh.
it's just like some of the things that Donald Trump says. The vast majority of Americans are not afraid of Muslims. Period. The people that are the ones that get all the headlines. Okay, you have to also look at the media. What are they going to do? If there's a story, they're going to sensationalize it. If there's an issue going on, they're going to want to make it look so dramatic that you turn into their entertainment too. Okay, it's not just information, but
They're going for ratings.
right.
But isn't it incumbent upon our public officials or the people that are trying to be public officials to counteract that a little bit and call the media out?
Has actually
that
anyone
happens?
actually said anything about his comment? I actually haven't read or I don't know about his comment about Muslims banning Muslims. Have any
oh
of the
my
other?
God, Paul Ryan just dropped.
But he's
it.
not.
Okay,
He's not a candidate.
No,
Oh, the
not
candidates?
No, the
Yeah.
candidates have. Any other candidate actually said something to like?
They
you
all
know?
did.
Yeah, they all have.
They all have.
Okay. And what have they said?
Jeb Bush said it was un-American.
Okay.
Rubio
Unconstitutional.
said
Well, it's
yeah.
unconstitutional. But
Yeah.
how do you know if someone's? I mean, it's not even actually. How would you regulate that? How would you literally regulate that? Wow, you look a little Muslim today.
The same way
Right.
you would give
Like, how
free
would you do
college
that?
to everybody. You just can't.
That's
do
why
it.
it's safe to say, right?
It's
safe to
impossible.
campaign on
Right.
things that can never happen.
Right.
But the interesting thing is, in the past month, we've had two, what I would consider terrorist incidents. I think the thing in San Bernardino, but also the thing in Colorado. I think they're both terrorist incidents, and yet we're only talking about one group of people. The person who shot up the Planned Parenthood and killed a police officer did so because of his, religious beliefs. Are we going to then ban anyone who's Christian who, is anti-Planned Parenthood?
Well, I hope not.
Well, I don't think we should be banning anyone who has any views as long as those views are not going to be expressed in violence.
I think there's a
agree
very,
with
very
that.
small segment of people that would give any credence or agree with Trump
Yeah.
on that whole Muslim banning thing. My point was that I think there's a lot of other conversations that have been spurred because of some of his rhetoric, and I think those are healthy and valuable conversations in the election cycle.
But
Right.
they need to really happen because I guess I'm not intensely following all the candidates, but I haven't heard all of them call them out for that at all.
They all
But
did.
even if
For
they
his
did,
Muslim comment,
Yeah.
every one of
I
them
believe
did.
it, but
And it was-
I don't think
and-
that's common knowledge.
And
though.
to
But
the
even if
media,
they
well,
did-
to the media's credit, I mean, I watched the morning shows this morning. CBS covered it. Every single Republican candidate, they showed what they said. They interviewed like Carly Fiorina, where she said that it was absolutely ridiculous. It's unconstitutional. It's not what we stand for. I mean, they went down the line. Every single one said something. They all did. So
now my question is, do they say it and really focus on it? I mean, because Trump gets so much attention.
we don't want to
Yeah.
focus on it because the more attention you give it, then the more credence
giving-
you're going to give
exactly.
to it.
But the
So
media
it's-
gives
yeah,
Trump
he's an idiot.
so
Move
much
on.
attention, and for someone who is not following, the Republican Party and not very much ingrained in it, their perception of the Republican Party is going to be Donald Trump right now, and that's a function of the media and the fact that they give Trump, like, every word he says is important to the media because it's ratings.
Hence why Republicans don't like the media.
I don't.
We're technically media right now.
Right, and I'm going to
Except
say the same
ideas
thing
by
though. I mean,
Elliot.
if you go on the Democrat side, well, when Bernie Sanders says something, he's going to get more attention.
Okay.
It's
There's less to say on that side because there's less candidates.
Absolutely.
There's not going to be the primary.
And there's
the
not
way that
anyone
there is.
saying the ridiculous things like Donald Trump is
Exactly.
on the other side.
Well, we're so desensitized. Oh, sorry, I'm close. We're so we're so desensitized that we almost need that because I mean we're talking about it right now. So I think that's something that they're feeding into as well.
I think we're going to jump to our sponsor spot
Oh,
first,
Wesley.
and then we're going to jump to this.
That's my
Oh,
buddy.
boy.
full question. So, if that's okay. I didn't hear anything in my ear. I want Nick to kind of jump in with some information about Camera Corner Studios.
I can do that.
Okay.
Do you want me to give everybody a quick tour?
Yes.
Okay, it's going
A
to take
quick
just
tour
a
would be
second.
amazing.
I'm going to click some magic buttons here, and all of a sudden they're going to see my iPad. There we are. How's it going? I'm Nick. You've heard me a lot on Elliot's show, but you haven't really seen much of me. Today we're doing the video, and I wanted to take a moment to show you guys around at what we've got. Here we're in the control room. We've got our audio feed, our video multi-screen switches and whatnot. This is what I see as I'm calling the show. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to take you into the studio and show you what that looks like a little bit too. So this is a kind of a lobby area where we can stage. Elliot did a great job and took care of his people with some snacks today. In the actual studio, we have a lot of open room. Today we're shooting with 4 cameras. I'm just going to pan by here. Everyone's taking a bit of a break, but this is what it looks like without the movie magic. See, we even have a little studio audience there. So it's really cool. I mean, this is what we do at Camera Corner Studios. You can bring your own backdrops, build a set, whatever you got to do to make your production what you need. So I'm going to, live video, guys, right? I am going to be turning it back over to Elliot here in just a second. And, yeah, let me hit this magical button. And Elliot, you're on.
Okay. So I think we're going to jump right into the Twitter question. I forgot who it was by.
Ben Westenberg.
Yep. Is this
Ben
somebody?
Westenberg?
Okay, that's somebody you know.
No,
We
that's
all
someone
know
Mark knows.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
okay.
him. No,
Oh, Mark's not back yet.
Mark's not back yet.
Oh.
Do we want to go to a little bit of an extended break yet, or?
Need some filler.
Filler. This is live. Can't have filler. Okay.
Here he comes. Don't fall.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Trisha, you wanna do it? You wanna do a quick little spot for yourself? No, she doesn't want to.
She's listed in the intro sponsors.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mark's back anyway, so we're good.
Sorry.
We're good. So on the Twitter question it was from who? From Matt something?
Ben Westenberg.
Ben
That's my boy.
Westenberg. Okay, I don't know where I got Matt
He
from.
says there are so many things I want to
Should the
ask.
next president take on gun control with the majority of the population in favor of something / anything being done?
Ben.
So you want to go first, Mark?
He just lobbed a bomb in the room, didn't he?
He did. You know, I think I am a gun owner, and I have hunted, and I do strongly support the Second Amendment. I think that that's a really, really big part of our history. I do, however, see issues that we do have with guns in this country. However, everywhere you look, with the strictest gun laws, they have the most gun crimes. The perfect example is Chicago. Look at Washington, D.C. New Orleans. I think that there are very, very strict laws that we can enforce at the federal level. So if we start enforcing the existing laws that we have, I think that's a good start. I do think.
Such as what? Like what laws are not being enforced?
Like minimum sentences for some gun crimes. There was I read an article last week where there was some guy that he had a gun. He robbed some store, and then like 2 weeks later, he wasn't robbing a store. He did something. It was like a traffic violation. 2 weeks later, he killed somebody, and so it was. I'll pull it up when we're continuing discussion, but I think enforcing some of those laws would be very, very good, and being more strict on some of those things. But I do think that doing small things like maybe a little background check here and there when you want to buy a certain type of weapon, I think that's a good idea as well. I do think that, we have a gun epidemic in different circumstances in this country. I think it is important to take a look at it. But, I think you have to look at the person, not the firearm, because I think it is okay for someone to have, a rifle that has, a larger magazine, maybe not, something that you can, obviously automatic weapons are illegal, but, it's a hard conversation to have. And I think there are things that we can do, but I'm a background check fan.
So even though it's completely constitutional and your government is checking in on you for something that's completely constitutional, you're okay with that?
What do you mean?
Well, if I go in, it's totally legal. I can go in and purchase firearm. They're gonna do a check on me. What does that mean exactly?
Well,
like, what if I disagreed with Obama on something? Is he going to turn my gun request down?
Right, but you say, it's constitutional, and I agree. However, all constitutional rights do have limits. You cannot walk into a theater and scream fire.
But you can shoot them all.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, just because something is a right doesn't mean, first of all, that there isn't responsibilities around that.
Well, anyone who's serious on terrorism and screams, we have to do something about terrorism, how do you not support background checks on every person that wants a gun? How do you not support
Well, I don't
that?
think everyone. I mean, I think it depends on the type of gun that you're getting, and I don't know. You look at so many of these crimes that are being committed, the murders in New Orleans and Chicago and Washington D.C.
Those guns are illegal guns
Right?
anyway.
How many of those were purchased illegally? How many of those aren't registered? How many of those are not?
But then what's background checks going to do?
Well, I don't know.
And what happens when I can email you a gun that you can print on your 3D printer? How do you background check that?
I would love to have a 3D printer, my friend.
Well, you will.
But-
I mean, you'll
but
have it
Elliot
within
brings
5
up-
years.
Elliot brings up a good point. We are getting to a point where weapons can just be created, and that's a big problem. I think culturally, though, we as a country have an obsession with guns. I know so many people who just feel that they have to have a gun because they're so afraid, and we're becoming a society of people who are afraid of everything, afraid of the person walking down the street, afraid of the terrorist who's going to come get you. And the answer that is pushed by the NRA, who happens to work for, the gun manufacturers with the sole goal of selling more guns, is be afraid, be the good guy with the gun, and protect yourself. And unfortunately, there are way too many people who have guns who have no clue what they are and how to use them. You have way too many people who have guns that are just with one purpose, and that's to kill, your assault rifles and what have you. And you have way too many people who get guns with zero training because, many states don't require any training. Can you imagine if you were allowed to get behind the wheel of a car and just start driving with no training, but yet you're
are those the
allowed to have
people
a
that are
device
going into the
that's
theaters and
purpose is
shooting
to
up?
kill someone?
Are those the people that are committing those crimes, the people with no training?
I'm sure some of them, actually, I would say probably the vast majority of those committing crimes have not had training.
Right, but those people who are committing those crimes who haven't had training, are they buying them legally? Are they seeking out the means to do that?
From the last few cases that we've had in the mass shootings, the weapons have been purchased legally. I mean, the San Bernardino case, he had 4 guns that were all purchased legally. It is a problem. I don't know. If
So what
background
gun
checks are
law?
gonna solve
What
it.
gun law would have prevented that?
That's the problem. I don't necessarily know if a gun law is going to protect it. I think it's more of a cultural thing.
Well, can I say something
And you
to
know
that?
what? I'm going to sit in here and agree with you
comment?
completely. It is a culture
I
thing.
agree.
It absolutely
Yeah,
is a culture
Ron
thing,
has
and we
to
have
say.
a culture
Yeah,
problem,
thank
not
you.
a gun problem.
I've been reading this and I keep thinking I'm not reading it correctly, but what I don't understand is the no-fly list.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can still purchase a gun?
Absolutely. You could.
How is
Yeah.
that possible?
You could
I've
be
got
someone
it.
that they are pretty confident
Why is
is
that
a
okay?
terrorist, but
I
you can
have
buy
a
a gun.
problem with that.
Okay, but literally, if you are, again, and I'm going to say Republican because it's the majority of them are Republican. If you're a Republican, legislator, and you are actually, on your grandstand about terrorism, and you say, but I cannot take the rights away from terrorists if they want to buy guns.
Well, I think it
I
gets
don't- I
back
just
again to
can't-
the NRA. I think
Well,
most of the
exactly.
politicians are just so afraid of losing their A-star rating or whatever it is with the NRA that, something that's as common sense as, hey, we're pretty sure this guy's a terrorist. We're pretty sure we don't want him on an airplane. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't want him having an AR-15.
But it's the conversation of my rights to do. It's my. It's all about me.
But that conversation comes from the left too about other topics. My, and me.
That's,
me,
Right.
me.
That's America.
It is America.
We're all
It
about
is American.
But I will say this, and I agree with you. But it's always okay to have my right to have a gun, but it's not okay to of my right to have an abortion. There's always a little bit of leverage there that they use politically, and that's a whole nother topic. But
Yeah, no, but I think that I think
But,
that hypocrisy is well
yeah.
founded.
I'm gonna
But I think that hypocrisy floats. That goes both ways, though, right?
I'm going to piggyback right
I
off what
agree.
you said, though. It's legal to have an abortion. However, we have put certain restrictions upon it. And some of them are with the sole purpose of trying to make it impossible for you to get an abortion. But some of them are just, restrictions we put on, you can't do it in the last term, et cetera. But yet we're so afraid to put any restrictions on gun ownership.
I don't think that's true. I think there's a plenty of restrictions on gun ownership.
But
I will
the
say
vast
this.
You can't just
majority-
walk into a store
I
and pick
watched
it
the
off the shelf.
president. I was so excited to. I was so excited to know that he was doing a primetime speech the other night, 8:00 at night. So there's got to be something really good and worth watching, right? So I'm just sitting there waiting for something, anything, to come out of his mouth. It was
There's nothing.
nothing. So disappointing. There was nothing. There was no actionable conversation at all. It was just like exactly what has happened before. Nothing.
But when it
different.
comes to this topic, what really can he do at this point? I mean, if you want to talk about ISIS and such, what are we going to do to solve this problem?
He could
You
stop
know-
calling it ISIL.
Well, whatever you want to call it, we've been trying to solve problems in the Middle East forever. Have we really changed anything?
Right. Well, I mean, the problem is it's in the Constitution, and that's what everybody, you can always you can pedal it back to that. So,
The Constitution that was written when?
well, then,
Right, but it's still in the Constitution.
So is any of it valid? We should throw the whole thing out. Like,
No, no, absolutely not. But I guess what is interesting is that the world is changing so much. We are changing
It
so
sure
much.
has, and the Constitution was written so that the Second Amendment is there, so that when the government comes knocking on my door, I can say, "Get out! I have a gun."
I totally.
So, that's why it's there. That's why it's
The
right.
Constitution
So-
was written so that it could be amended, but not easily, and that was on purpose, so that we can.
When's the
adapt
last
and
time we
adjust.
tried to amend the Constitution?
It's been some time, but
I want to
it
go back
hasn't
to
been
what Elliot
necessary.
just said, though, because that gets back to the point I'm making, the whole fear. I need to have a gun to protect myself from the government. I hate to tell you, whatever gun you have is not going to protect you against your government. Your government has weapons that you couldn't even think of. Your gun, no matter what it
But
is
that
you
doesn't
have.
that doesn't add any credibility to the case that we should put more limits on the weapons.
I want a gun to protect my family from the psychopath that enters my home.
But the vast majority of
You
people
know,
who
that-
say that they
that's-
want a gun to protect themselves, statistically, you're more likely to harm yourself or have one of your children harm themselves. And I know too many people who say, I'm a responsible gun owner, I know how this works, I know how to be safe, and then they do something stupid.
But you're
It
also more
happens.
likely to cause harm to your child by feeding them French fries.
right. I know a ton of gun
So
owners.
we have we have a question from our number one listener, Don Nelson. So that's up on the screen. So who, if anyone, not in the current race, would you have liked to have seen run?
That's a heck of a hashtag. Long time listener.
Those are the dumbest hashtags. I hate that.
I love
Hashtag,
it.
hashtag. Way to go, Don.
Doesn't even make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
If you don't mind, I want to tackle that real quick. Before we met today, I looked online. I looked for, the sentiment out there for people who should have run. And I found this list of 60 people who should run for president. And I read through every single one of them. And it was divided pretty much equal between, Democrat, Republican. And by the time I got done with the list of 60, I said, there is no one on here who really has compelled me with anything more. And I think we're missing that a lot with our, political parties as they currently are. There's no one who's really compelling. There's no one who makes me go, ooh, I'm really excited about what they're saying.
There's no JFK.
No, there's absolutely not.
So you sidestepped the question.
What I said is I went through a list of 60 and found none.
Oh, you didn't. So you didn't find any in that list.
I
even.
found none.
in the
that
list of 60, in
compelled me.
addition to the list of whatever we have, 20 that we have.
Right.
now.
These are people who hadn't run or, hadn't announced at this point. And I could find nothing that made them stand out to me. And I think that's a problem. And I see that going forward. I don't see anyone who really excites me, that's like a young, upcoming Democrat, so to speak. I'm not seeing it much. So I don't really have an answer.
Rhonda?
Not necessarily. I guess hearing again the need to be excited. I need to have a feeling, which is what I think a lot of people are responding to with, the Muslim hater, Donald Trump and other candidates who are so hateful in their rhetoric and what they're saying. It's like, I really just want someone who can walk through and tell me, I'm going to get you some health care and not make you, basically go bankrupt just in order to pay for it. I want someone who can actually champion small businesses without making, and I'm sorry, I don't agree with, you're going to pay every worker you have $15, an hour, even though, you're going to make them pay minimum wage and same as the corporate, billionaire, mandatory minimum wage. I just don't. It doesn't actually add up for me, and so I can find things I like about each candidate, but like he says,
But you don't have a
excitement.
candidate right now that's actually saying those things, right?
Not necessarily. No.
But going back to what you just said, you said, I want a candidate who's going to tell me how you're going to have health care that's not going to bankrupt me, which, I agree with. But as soon as a candidate says that, you're going to have people say, well, that's like Bernie Sanders saying how you're going to pay for college.
If you were not alive, you can't go to college. So if you literally cannot have health care to go to college, then you're not even going to make it there.
Right. I guess
think
the point
that's a
I'm
staple
making, though, is
that they need to take care of.
But you can always say that, right? So if healthcare is not good enough, then we shouldn't invest in anything, right?
Right.
No, I think it's honestly, I think if you're not healthy, you can't do anything. You can't go to school. You can't run a business. You can't be a parent. You can't, be in government. You can't do anything. So it's like a staple that majority of countries in this world give their citizens. It's like an afterthought. And I don't know why that's not happening.
Well,
So I thought I was giving you
so broken here.
I thought I was giving you a softball because I thought all the Democrats wanted Elizabeth Warren to run. Is that not true?
People want Biden.
No.
They want
No, they don't want Biden.
No one want
No?
unless you're a Saturday Night Live writer.
No.
You don't want Biden. But I'm a small business owner. I have quite a few employees. I provide decent health care to them, and I pay a lot of money for it. And with that, when myself or someone in my family has to actually take those services, it's so expensive, and it feels like we're working to pay healthcare providers. It's a very broken system, and I don't think that Obamacare, as people love to call it, really solved the problem in the long term. When you have no motive for the cost to come down, and I think you actually have an incentive for the cost to go up, because insurance companies are allowed to make a certain percentage off of how much it costs them to provide care. On top of that is their profit. So how do you increase that percentage? By increasing the cost of health care. And that's
So
one
our
of the-
question was,
Right.
what candidate should we?
So,
So you have somebody, Mark?
you know what?
Those are good. Those are good, valid things.
Very good points. I don't have someone because the candidate that I want to run is a Republican that says, you know what?
Marijuana should be legal.
No. I'm going to be totally serious here. The candidate
I
that
was
I want
serious,
to
too.
run says, you know what? If you want same-sex marriage, I'm okay with that. If you're in a union, you don't suck as a human being. If you're a teacher, I will support you, but I will also support the state that I run. And I want someone that says, young people, I'm going to make college affordable, but also responsible to the government. I want someone...
You want a libertarian.
No, I don't. I want someone that is Republican that has those ideas. Because it's not 1950
But
anymore.
they have to be nice about it.
No,
You want
don't
a
have
you
to
want
be
a nice you want a nice
No,
libertarian.
you don't have to be nice about it, because you can say you can be as mean as you want, like Donald Trump.
But that
who
person
gives
would
a
never get
flying
elected, right?
F if one man marries another man? Who really cares? Why doesn't the Republican Party come out and say that? We need candidates that can say that, and someone who has the courage to do just that. We need someone.
I think
there
if
is
Republicans were
nobody.
consistent, they should say that the government should be out of marriage
I
completely.
agree.
And I think
That's
the
been my
first
position.
I think the first step to doing that, the federal government, as being probably the largest employer in the country, should remove spousal benefits for insurance.
Which would be a pretty Republican thing to do.
I would
Yeah.
say so.
I
in
have a
terms of-
candidate, by the way.
What?
Julian Castro.
Oh,
I
really?
forgot about him. He's the former mayor of San Antonio. He may be Hillary's VP. Yeah.
Do you have inside information?
No. I've just been reading about it. But I think he's amazing, and I think he's got great presence. I agree with pretty much everything, all of his policy, and I think he's not your corn-fed Midwestern candidate, but I think that I would watch for him. I was hoping he would run, but if he's vice president, I think he will do a tremendous amount of good for Hillary Clinton if he ends up being VP.
Awesome. Okay.
Do you know?
Do I have one? Well, the candidate that I'm the most excited about, or was the most excited about, I'm a little dismayed that he's slipping, but is Ben Carson. I'm happy that he was running. I was been following him for a very long time.
Oh, Adam.
What? I like the guy. I really do. Yes, absolutely.
What do you like? What do you like? Tell us what you like about him.
We would
I
like to know.
I like him because I feel like he's pragmatic, and I think of
He's
myself as a
asleep
pragmatist.
all the time.
I like watching paint dry just as much as the next person.
I'm not
But-
talking about his personality. I'm not. He's less than captivating. I'm not gonna lie.
And he forgot half
But
of
I
the
like
things that he
his-
did in his
I
life.
like his positions. I like the
He's
the
very
ideas
forgetful.
That he has.
But that was interesting though, because you said something about perception and about personality, and so did Rhonda. And I think that's so an important part of why we choose people now. And you go back, to
It's a
when.
popularity contest now.
Oh, absolutely! It's who would you like to have a beer with? If you look at some of the past presidents from before the TV age, they would never ever get elected.
There was some real
Ben
jerks in
Westenberg should be
there.
president. I'm just saying.
I'm going to have to meet this guy.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had another question, right? Yeah, there it is. Oh, from Becky Laser. So who's the strong Republican alternative to Trump who wants you to focus on him, good or bad? So let's resist the urge.
As much as you.
So we have
wanna-
Ben Carson. So who's our other alternative?
As much as you want to resist the urge, you can't, because
Yeah.
honestly, I mean the media won't let you. And
the
some
media,
of- well,
the media
hold
won't
on.
let you. I disagree with that, because the media is a business. The media does what it does because people tune in and watch it. We're partly to blame for this, and more so. I run a media company. We produce content. What we do is get people to look at it, and if people are going to continue to look at it, we'll keep producing that content.
Let me.
So,
say,
I don't
have you
agree.
watched an entire Donald Trump speech?
Absolutely not.
You're the only one here.
Well, no. Okay, here's my point. Okay, so for every absolutely asinine comment that he makes, he does make, 5 or 6 good, legitimate, moderate comments. Okay, you cannot say you don't give me that face, because you've never seen one of his speeches. So you can't.
So what's an example
Judge me.
of something moderate?
Yeah,
that
that's
says?
what I would like to hear.
Let's pull it up. I mean, watch the entire night. Okay,
That's a very Trump thing to say.
well, no, I mean, okay. Every time you see something in the news, you guys know, you're media people.
Yeah.
They'll take the 7 seconds, because I've done interviews. You got to speak in sound clips.
Right.
What they do is they take the 7-second sound bites that are the most stupid thing he says, and he's dumb enough to keep
why
feeding
do
him.
they do that? Is what I'm saying to you.
Because the media sucks. They
the media is a business, and most of them
People
are,
want to see controversy. They want to see
Right.
They want to see train wrecks.
They
though,
watch
too.
NASCAR for the crashes. Let's be honest with
Yeah.
each other.
So
Yeah.
is it the media that's to blame? Because I often hear from a lot of my conservative friends that the media, the mainstream media does this, mainstream media does that.
Oh, okay.
Is it the media's fault, or is it the consumers who consume
I love
that
you, Rhonda.
content and vote with their dollars? Is it their fault? To me, if
It's both, though.
Yeah.
I don't know
think
if I
too.
agree.
It
Because
totally is.
you
Look
run
at
a
the alternative
business,
medias
right?
And how popular some of the
But
alternative media
okay, so
are.
the media provides people what they think the people want to hear. But where are they getting that information?
Well, I think
They don't have proper metrics. That's why newspapers are going out of business right and left
What
across the country.
would we do if we didn't have the media? That's like 3/4 of my day. I'm looking at media.
Wow.
Me
Okay,
too.
so you said
Me
that
too.
3/4 of your day. What stories do you tend to gravitate to? Because I can tell you from our
Chris Weary.
research, the celebrity type stories get a 10-to-1 ratio of traffic.
But
people
all four
want
of
to
us
hear
here
it.
are
probably listening to
getting
this.
our sources
Tr-
from different.
who's
our
listening
media
to
from
this?
different sources
He
too.
name dropped.
So, unless you guys have any closing comments, we're going to call halftime, and we're going to jump to the next episode after we take a little break.
Oh, this is crazy. That went really fast.
I told you.
Yep. I mean, we could probably be here for like 4 hours
fun.
and keep going.
We've only
We
got-
really didn't even answer the question that the poor.
Well, that you're almost like politicians.
It's just like it's like a real debate, Mark.
yeah.
We've only got to the second
Love
candidate
it.
on the Republican side.
Right. So I don't know
There's
if we
no
can
need for the other ones, really.
just put. Can we put the resting screen up? Awesome. Look at that. Amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We've got Ideas by Elliot. Hey, folks, you're listening to Ideas by Elliot. And we're here with Ideas by Elliot. Podcast.
Welcome to Ideas by Elliot, sponsored by Camera Corner Studios, Yike Salon, Trisha Nell Law, and Release Wire. With your host, web marketing mogul, Elliot Christensen. This is his chance to take a break and talk in depth with the most interesting people he knows. There's no rules, no censor, and no do-overs. It's raw, unscripted, and never edited. And now, here for this special live event to kick things off, we have the much lesser-known second verse of our national anthem, as performed by Max Christensen.
Okay, Max had to run. So we're going to skip that, I think. He might close out the show with that. We'll see. I think he got a little stage fright. So, all right, we are back. Nice. So I think we're going to jump into that last Twitter question that we had from our...
You look great, man.
I can't see myself on screen. That's so horrible. So I don't know who this guy is. Jacob Jones.
What's up,
What
Jacob?
do you feel is the correct rate for
I'd
the
like to jump
minimum
in on this one.
wage? What?
I'd like to jump in on this one
Absolutely.
because I don't feel like there is a correct rate for federal minimum wage. If you look at all of the different economies of all the different cities, the cost of living level is so much different in San Francisco than it is in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or New York City. How can you set a standard by which all of these communities have to live by or, pay by, essentially, that's going to be equitable or fair? It's just not possible. I can make $17 an hour here and have a nice, modest living, and I can make $17 an hour in New York and essentially be homeless. And I think that particular issue is probably better suited by state or even municipality by municipality.
I think that there's, when you look at minimum wage, I think that if you set something, that means that a 16-year-old could get the same as, a 25-year-old single mother that's trying to feed her family, and I don't think that's right. I think that if you're going to set a minimum wage, you should do something that's under 18 for high school kids that are trying to get experience, and then something that's over 18 for people that are actually trying, like the living wage that's being debated right now. What that is, I don't know. I think Adam has a good point. Standards of living and cost of living is different all over the country, and quite frankly, there are different jobs that I think is grossly underpaid. But that's not for this debate. But to answer the question, I don't know. But there should be two. That's one that's under 18, and then one that's over that are trying to feed a family.
I think we actually have that already. I mean, at least in the state of Wisconsin, I think if you're under 18, you can get a lesser minimum wage. At least it used to be that way.
Was the question about? Wisconsin is, but is it?
I think the question was what was the number? And we both agree that there isn't one number, essentially.
This is something I want to jump in on.
Yeah.
First of all, I agree that the minimum wage cannot be set across the board because you have such a distinct difference in cost of living in different areas. Someone making $15 an hour in Green Bay, Wisconsin is doing very well. Someone making $15 an hour in New York or Chicago is probably homeless. But with that being said, we do need to have a minimum floor. I don't think it should be $15 an hour federally, but I do think that it has to be there as a floor, or else you're going to have certain, companies that are going to try and basically pay people nothing. And, there's always someone willing to work for almost nothing, and it just drags down everyone, I think. The other point I wanted to touch on, you had said something about, they should have a difference for 18 and under. Well,
I would like to hire these people.
Who work for nothing?
So who are these people that are willing to work for almost nothing?
Sold.
You'd be surprised. I mean, I've had people who've come to me and said that they work for $5 an hour. It's
But
happening.
but if somebody comes in and they don't have any other way of breaking into the industry that you're in, and they want to, it's more like an apprenticeship. Then
That's true.
What's really wrong with that?
I think the problem is with everything it gets abused, and it just brings us down to the lowest common denominator.
What
You
if
think
I-
if
what
it's
if
being
I'm-
abused, really, is there going to be that many people lining up at the door to go and
Right.
get abused? They're going to find somebody else that pays better or has better benefits. And I
Well-
mean, it sounds capitalist of me, but the market is certainly going to weed out the people who are the abusive employers. I'm not going to stick around for very long.
I don't know if I agree with
Walmart's
that.
still in business.
Yeah, Walmart's in business, and you have so many
Walmart's a
companies.
pretty easy
But they
scapegoat,
committed to
but-
not paying minimum wage also.
Hmm.
So I mean,
You have so
You're
many
giving me the look of
companies you have so many
I don't really
companies
know what
whose
your point is with
workforce
that.
is based on undocumented immigrants. I read a story a while back about a meatpacking plant in Ohio that actually had an agreement with the federal authorities that they would raid every so often, like once a week, but they would only take X number of people out, because if they took the entire group of people who were undocumented, the company was shut down. Obviously
Illegal.
there
I know that.
obviously there are people who work for below minimum wage. It's happening all the time. It's just they're undocumented workers.
Well, can we agree that the actual minimum wage is too low?
I
Can we
think
all
the
agree on
actual
that?
minimum wage is too low. I don't think $15
Can the
an hour.
Republican table agree on that?
but I don't know of anybody who gets paid that.
I'm sorry.
that the minimum. You don't know
Who's texting?
You get
anyone?
paid minimum wage, Becky?
Can we agree that the minimum wage is too low?
Nobody can live on $7.25 an
Right.
hour, $7.50 an
Well,
hour.
and
It's-
especially when your Medicaid gets pulled out from under your, then you can't actually
Yeah, I mean,
even
yeah, nobody can live on that.
right.
But I wanted to go back to one other point that you made a little bit ago. You said, well, we should have different rules for those who are 18. Unfortunately, there are way too many 18-year-olds who have children who are trying to survive. So
Okay, but
you got a problem
yeah,
no matter
yeah,
what.
Yeah. But no. There's a lot of different assistance programs for those that are under 18. I mean, I went to East High School, and my locker was next to the daycare in East High School. So I mean, there are, and I love East. It's a great school. It's wonderful.
Is that what turned you into a Republican?
No.
The daycare in the school.
No, but okay.
Well,
there's nothing better than seeing a big old human anatomy picture every time you turn the corner heading to your locker. That's that.
Well, and here's the question: where's the level of personal responsibility? I mean,
Right.
you be the Republican. I mean to say that, but why should we be taking care of all of these 18-year-olds who, well, frankly, can't keep it in their pants? I mean, come on, there's got to be some level of accountability here. That
Did we
Grow up
just
once.
did we just digress?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making
What?
sure.
Minimum wage we were talking about.
I think this is probably why I would say I'm more liberal. Is I believe that when it comes to children who are born into circumstances that they have no control over, to say, well, because your mother was irresponsible, why should we help you? Well, if we believe that,
Especially when she could have had an abortion.
Right.
But we don't want that.
we don't want that, but then we don't want to, help them with this child who, needs things, and there.
But who's saying that?
I believe we just heard that just now.
But I mean,
What did I say?
there's
not you.
But there's
Oh,
there's
Yeah.
balance, right? I mean, there already are public assistance options, lots of them, and so like, why should we raise the minimum wage, which was the first question? Like, what should be the proper minimum wage
And-
if we have these other programs available for the people who actually need them?
Well, there gets to be a better question, though. Is the reason we have a lot of these programs because we've allowed the employers to pay so little? You look at companies like Walmart who, specifically tell their employees, hey, go get these assistance programs.
So why is Walmart so popular?
Oh, are we really going to talk about them?
Larson Green, baby.
You know, that's how I first met you, right?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
oh boy.
Okay,
You
so
walked into
so
it there.
let's not pick on Walmart. Let's pick
No,
on
you can
let's
take-
pick
Not
on
give
most
them
of the.
airtime.
Let's talk about most of the small businesses in downtown Green Bay. They pay minimum wage or very close to it, right? They pay very low wages. So, what's wrong with that? We're enabling them to exist and to pass along decent prices to their customers.
But we also can't imagine these small businesses in Green Bay paying $15 an hour as someone like Walmart, who is a completely different category of profits. You cannot compare that. So if you have a standard federal minimum wage, how do you regulate that when you have Walmart and you have a small business in Green Bay?
Well,
No, if I am a small business in Green Bay, which ironically I am, and I want to hire somebody who's retirement age, works part-time. This is an actual applicable situation because I do this very thing. And they only want to work a couple hours a week, and they only want to make a modest wage because it's a fun, mad money type of thing for them. I'm prevented from doing that because, the federal minimum wage is such that I can't pay them. Well, I can pay them $7.25 an hour now, but
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, if an employee's value is not more than $7.25, there's probably a bigger problem there. I look at.
but
absolutely,
with
yeah.
free
I mean,
dinner?
there's a lot
Question
of other
from the
perks that
gallery.
come along with it.
But so if they're not worth $7.25 an hour, how do they get up to that point? Like if they're not worth $7.25 an hour now, how are they going to be at that point if we don't give them the opportunity?
Okay, you can't put. This is so frustrating. Okay, look, man.
Because it's an arbitrary number.
Right? Why do you say? Well, if they're not worth $7.25 an hour, what are they? No, it's not. It's not the person. Okay, it's the job. I'm not saying that. If I am going to be a cashier at McDonald's, I'm not going to expect to make $15 freaking an hour because that job is not
right,
worth
but
that.
I think we've
that
all
person,
said that we don't think that the $15 an hour makes sense, especially in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay, pick.
Okay, so let's say that
Whatever number you
let's
want.
say that we just had a modest increase to the federal minimum wage. Let's say we just went to $8.25.
Okay.
I think we just hit a compromise. Next question.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So I'd actually. Oh, we do have another question.
What's up,
Amazing. David Snowpeck, upcoming guest. David Snowpeck, amazing.
What does David do? He's an upcoming guest.
He is an upcoming guest.
What does he do?
Fantastic.
He is the Drupal wizard of Wisconsin.
The what?
Exactly.
The gerbil?
Drupal. Yeah.
The Drupal.
It's a web programming
Very good.
platform. Yeah.
I'm-
Anyway,
Should I-
more than you wanted to know.
I don't.
Okay.
Good question.
But he's the wizard. So his
The
question:
whiz.
if you could have anyone moderate the presidential debates, who would it be?
Rachel
Walter
Maddow.
Cronkite.
Rachel
brings up
Maddow.
a great-
Rachel Maddow.
You know, it'd be awesome.
Rachel
Rachel
Maddow.
Maddow and frickin' Bill O'Reilly. Holy crap.
No, because
that
they would
be?
debate each other.
Yeah,
But-
that would be a
Oh,
train
yeah.
wreck.
This is a great question, though, because we had the issue with the CNBC debate where, all the candidates just went nuts and
It was
said,
a train
well,
wreck.
Did you watch that
Right.
debate?
I watched part of it. I
was
honestly cannot go through.
It was bad.
But my point is, there is, in my opinion, nothing wrong with a debate moderator who challenges the candidates.
They didn't do that. That was no. They
On
no.
some of the questions that
We're
I
not
saw,
answering
it
his
was.
question. I just wanted to say that.
You know who would
Yeah.
be
We're
not
really
answering his
cool?
question.
Who would be cool?
I think if they would have a debate moderator, it should be Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. How freaking you know what I mean?
Horrible.
Why? Why is that horrible?
Did you ever hear the like if you run a large you run Walmart, you don't want to have an ex
There it
CEO
is
on the board.
again.
You don't want to have the person who did the job.
I get that.
Interviewing for the job, right? Like that's bad. Just it's too much inside baseball. The whole Trump and Bernie Sanders phenomenon, right? Like, they're like we're outsiders.
Not to mention, they'd all
yeah.
be too busy trying to, set their own history.
Yeah, they're fighting for legacy.
Right, legacy. Thank you. That's the word.
I
So
don't-
they're
I-
like,
look,
so
I
they're
don't
like,
think it'd
remember
be
when I
great
put
to fight
solar
for
panels on
legacy."
the roof?
right.
Remember when I took them off?
You remember when I
Remember when I
killed
put it back
Osama?
Yeah,
I'd like to
I
see
don't
somebody
think you
who's
could have
outside
former
of
presidents.
the
So,
media,
all
somebody
right,
who's
so
outside
fast
of
answer.
that.
So,
I would say that, or if it's anybody in history, I would say I would love to see Walter Cronkite do it.
no, we can't go back in history. I don't know why
He
people
said
think we can do
anyone.
that. Okay, that's true. Thanks, David.
Walter Cronkite.
I'm going to agree with.
I want to see somebody outside the media, somebody who's not,
Ben Westenberg.
in the mainstream.
Totally
Somebody
valid.
who's going to be a little bit less biased. Somebody who's going to be actually interested in the answers, not just
But everybody's
an
biased,
agenda.
right? Everybody is biased.
Absolutely.
I think you have a better a shot at it. Who's somebody who's got
That's actually a good answer.
that is a good
Supreme
answer.
Court justice would actually be a good answer. They have tenure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I I think I'd agree with Rhonda, though. I'd like Rachel Maddow. And I know that everyone says, she's liberal and everything, but she is actually very detailed. And every time I've seen her have a Republican guest on, she is very diligent and fair to them and gives them the chance to answer.
But she's thorough.
She's
Well,
very thorough.
she asks really good questions.
Yeah.
Like thought-provoking questions. Pretty much in every interview
Yeah.
she does.
She knows her stuff. I mean,
But she does have an agenda, though, so you would need something to balance that out, right?
Bill O'Reilly interviews the president during the Super Bowl. What did it last like 3 years?
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird.
Okay, do we have another question, or do I jump to my questions? Okay, I get to ask some questions. That is sweet. So I have to find my questions now. Okay, this is easy. So actually, let's go back to our the list of candidates, right? So let's go a little quicker this time. We covered Trump very thoroughly. But I'm going to start at the other end of the list here. So Jeb Bush, quick thoughts.
Not interested.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Not interested.
I don't think he's.
So
there.
he's at 4% in the polls. So that
Enough said.
Yep. Okay. You guys have anything? Say who is that? That would be awesome.
Well, actually, I did try and do some research on him today, and I went to jebbush.com and ended up at Donald Trump's site. So
Interesting.
I know. I saw that. That was awesome.
No, Jeb is not his real name. It's like I think it's John or something.
it?
Those are his initials, JEB.
No kidding.
Yeah, for real. Like I don't even know what his first
Why
name
don't I
is.
know that?
So like if that was on the ballot, you'd be like, I don't know who this person
What
is.
crap is this?
Yeah.
would it be legal for him to put Jeb Bush then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can put whatever you want.
Yeah.
As candidates, you can put whatever you want.
I don't think.
So if you
he
wanna get
would have
elected,
a real shot at it with that last name, I don't think he has a real shot at it anyway. I think that's a pretty polarizing name. And
Absolutely.
it's
He
just,
whines all
whether he's good
the
or not,
time.
that's-
He just whines all the time.
I don't agree that it's
He
the
whines.
name thing. Because if we're
Nobody needs another Bush. or
if we're
Clinton.
sitting here
You've heard
talking
that.
about Hillary and everyone's okay with another Clinton,
I don't think everyone is.
Okay, if a large portion of people are okay with another Clinton,
34.5% of
I
the
think
Democratic Party are
if
not.
Bush were, I think if Jeb Bush were a good campaigner, I don't think people would care about the name. I don't think it's the name that's stopping him. I
In
think
the
it's the
general
personality.
election, people would care about the name. Absolutely, they would.
If he were a really good, compelling campaigner and had a platform that people cared about, they'd get over the name.
I do agree with you on that.
Well, he
I really do.
complains about Donald Trump and Ben Carson all the time, but he actually doesn't use and capitalize on
Right.
what they're doing, which he
Right.
absolutely could be doing right now, but he's not.
He's not an alternative.
Totally
he's not
fair.
offering
Right.
anything.
He
up on
could
the
be
table.
taking
Right.
this moment and really and truly putting policy forward and
He's-
talking
what was
about.
what was the term you used before?
He's whiny. He whines about what they're
No,
doing.
what did you use for Martin O'Malley? You said he was
Beige.
Beige.
Yes.
I was thinking
Yes.
tan.
beige.
And I'm like, that's not the word.
But that's
Okay.
the thing. I think it's too easy to say, well, he's a Bush, so therefore, no one wants to see a Bush. You know what? It's not that.
But there's baggage, and he has to be careful. He has to be more careful than Hillary Clinton does, because most people of both parties, they have a certain affection for Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
They just do, whether they want to admit it or
We've
not.
talked more about Jeb Bush than I think
take
any
Bill
media
Clinton in a
outlet has.
heartbeat.
Okay.
Okay, let's move
Moving
on.
Okay, we did talk briefly about Ben Carson before. Retired pediatric neurosurgeon Ben Carson, who is currently at an average of about 14% in the polls, which puts him at like number 3 or 4, depending.
As I was saying to somebody out in the hallway, the reason that I like him is because he's the one that seems to me as the most pragmatic, the one who's the most likely that's going to reach across the aisle and embrace ideas that maybe aren't his or don't align with his own. And I think he, even though he's an uninspiring candidate sometimes right now.
So what gives you that impression? So what I mean by that is, out of the people on the list, he's one of only 3 candidates who's really not held public office. So what makes you
I
believe
think
that
that's
he
an
can reach
asset
across?
rather than a liability that he
But-
hasn't
but-
held public office.
But what makes you believe he can reach across the aisle?
What makes me believe? Just the things that I've listened to him say and read him write about is, all throughout his career, he's embraced other ideas. He's thought outside the box,
But he's
looking for.
But he's flip flopped, or he's carefully forgotten things.
That's embellished, I think.
Okay, and he made some crazy comment about. Is he the one that said something about the pyramids?
Yeah. That was him.
I missed that one.
Like I don't even.
Oh,
remember. It
well
was
then
so
I
crazy.
think we need to enlighten you on that
Yeah.
comment.
So what did he say about the?
You should actually pull it up, give it word for word, like give him the actual quote, because that's when I was like, yeah, he's
Now, was
done.
this, now, was this
That
a
was
sound
his-
bites? That's
That was his dagger, to quote Wayne Larrabee.
But you know,
Yeah. That's your dagger.
but you know, if it's sound bites, like,
But you said something interesting to me. You said, well, maybe it's a benefit to him to not have held, political office, but everyone we've elected for president for quite a while has had, come from another previous office,
But
governor,
that-
senator, et cetera. I think,
that just means that it's been the trend. That doesn't mean that it's the right thing.
yeah,
I think, when you think politics, that office is the pinnacle of of politics worldwide. Period. It's the most powerful man in the world. I don't want a rookie in that office.
We have one.
Well,
I
But
don't
what,
agree with
okay,
that at
so
all.
what does rookie really mean though? I mean, do you feel that what positions actually qualify you for that?
okay. So Ben Carson, he is brilliant. He can separate conjoined twins at the head. But I have seen people that are absolutely the smartest people in the room don't know how to walk across a freaking street. And so the common sense working with others. Ben Carson is an absolutely brilliant guy, 10,000 times more smart than I am. But I think I can have a more interesting conversation with anybody on the face of this freaking planet than Ben Carson can. I don't think, in that office, you're a salesman for the United States. You are a leader, someone who is responsible for the direction of the country. I don't want someone who, was a hell of a surgeon, but doesn't know a whole lot about leading the United States of America.
And,
You know,
and
I-
really, what is it that brought him to the table? He was on Fox News and made comments.
No, he gave
and-
gave that speech at the National Prayer
Right.
Breakfast that slammed Obamacare. And
So
that's what,
is the level of what gets you, at the table on the Republican side, if you're willing to talk about how much you don't agree with Obama and don't like Obama, therefore you're a superstar and you're all of a sudden up there. I see too much of it where it's like, they spend more time complaining about Obama than telling me anything they're going to do.
I think he's got a lot more substance than just that.
Okay,
though.
so I do have his quote, but
Yeah, and I think you should definitely hear this, and then
okay,
you can tell us
but
what you think after
however,
Dun, dun,
and
dun, dun.
he did make this when he was 17. Okay.
Oh.
However, he hasn't.
When he was
Like-
trying to stab his mom?
But
or
he
when
hasn't.
was
He hasn't backpedaled from that.
Okay. Oh, you really? Okay.
So okay. So he said, "My own personal theory is that Joseph built the pyramids to store grain. Now, all the archaeologists think that they were made for the pharaoh's graves, but it would have to be something awfully big when you stop and think about it. And I don't think it would just disappear over the course of time to store that much grain.
That's such a good idea.
So okay. So I think we've put him to
Alright,
rest.
moving on.
So I mean he's not politically savvy enough, and he hasn't been vetted enough. Like Hillary Clinton said plenty of controversial things, especially when she was 17. I'm quite certain, but
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
but she's had to survive through all that. So there's some battle scars for that, right? So I think that's interesting. Okay, Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, well, current governor of New Jersey.
This is actually an interesting one.
I love Chris Christie. I
He,
think
he's
it's
got
great.
some issues, obviously, and temper and what have you. The one thing
He's
I
from
would say
Jersey,
I do
man.
agree with him is on his drug policy, as far as what should be criminalized and what shouldn't, and his views on what to do with people who have served their time and are now no longer incarcerated. That's something that I don't think we talk about enough. We have so many people in prison for drug crimes. The possession of a drug should not be something that precludes you from voting, and that concerns me.
But he was following the law, though, right?
Chris Christie's awesome. I think he's fantastic. I really do. I think he's someone that understands how to work with the other side. I mean, he's obviously a governor in a blue state, so I think he's someone that's...
So do you have evidence for that? Like, what has he actually done? Like, I hear him say that all the time, that he's in a blue state. But other than force his agenda, like, what has he actually compromised on?
I mean, I don't really live in New Jersey, so I can't really cite you
Okay.
total examples.
Okay.
But, but I think when it comes to...
Because you could say the same thing about Walker. He's in a blue state.
It's kind of a
I
purple
don't know
state.
about that. I think it's if you look at Wisconsin, it's blue state,
Okay.
presidential,
Okay.
red state, governor.
Okay.
which is
That is not
really messed up.
But that.
It
But,
is.
But that's the beauty
But
of
it-
this
but
two-party
it's-
system.
but
It's
I
just
think.
a
it's
But I
balance.
think. But I think that also
No, it's
is
absolutely true,
Right.
but it's really messed up.
okay. So, any other comments on that? Chris Christie. Any
That's
other?
great.
He's
I think
great.
he tends to be
But
a
he's,
little bit
he's
of
totally not going to win.
he tends
So-
to be a bit of a polarizing
Yeah.
Okay,
figure
because he's
but I think he
polarizing.
does have a lot of attributes. I don't
Yeah.
disagree with most of the comments that have been said about him already.
But Hillary's polarizing too, and you think she's going to win?
I
I don't think any of us said we think she's going to win.
Can we
I
roll
did.
back the tape?
I said it.
I said she's the strongest. She's the front runner total right now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You
It's
guys
a
have anything?
long
Chris
time.
Christie?
No,
Something
thanks.
about a bridge.
No,
Nothing.
no, thank
okay.
you.
All
No,
right.
Don't
Bridge.
care.
Ted Cruz,
Oh,
who, by the way, only .org on the list. TedCruz.org.
what's your point?
I have no point.
Okay.
I think. Well, I guess if there's something to be read out of that,
Mhm.
I think he's claiming to be grassroots.
Sorry.
And I mean, he, as far as political office, he's been a senator since 2013.
When he read Dr. Seuss, that was it for me.
Well, that's filibuster, though. I mean, what's he supposed to do?
No.
But it was not a filibuster.
I thought that was.
No.
Oh, what was that? Oh, was that about?
That was when he's like, I'm going to take the stage for like 13 hours.
Right.
And then when it comes back to regular rules in the morning, when I have to shut up, then I'll actually shut up. He wasn't doing. Rand Paul
Okay.
was a filibuster.
Okay.
Ted Cruz, it was different rules of Robert's Rules of Order. It was not a filibuster. It was.
Was
I-
Ted Cruz the one who announced at the religious university and the students were told they had to be there?
No.
Who was that? I
don't
thought
know.
it was Cruz.
I think.
Didn't he announce it at Liberty University?
I don't know.
Was it
I think, when you talk about Ted Cruz, I like Republicans like Reed Ribble. Okay, that work with people. Ted Cruz, I personally think.
So Reed Ribble was a businessman, and he went to Congress, and he has a track record of crossing sides once in a while.
He was part of No Labels.
Yeah.
He's really good.
But Ted Cruz doesn't do that.
Ted Cruz, I think, is self-serving. I think Ted Cruz.
He's number 2 in the polls.
Yeah.
I mean, on the
Well,
Republican
it-
side, when I
Well,
say
and
number
then
2.
that goes back to the popularity contest. He's got a popular name.
Right.
He's been in the media, so
And he
people
says
are
the most
gravitating
outlandish
towards that.
things.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Yeah,
Anything
Ted
else?
Cruz.
All right.
As
we'll
a
move on.
woman, I probably can't really comment because I don't have the right to
With him?
with Ted Cruz.
Why? Why do you say
It
that?
wouldn't matter what I said.
So you think he's sexist?
Oh, I know he's sexist. I don't think he's sexist.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
Carly Fiorina.
Carly is
Let's-
the
let's
one
start over
who
here.
ran HP, correct?
Well, you can
Ran
you
it
can,
into
you
the
can, You can
ground.
loosely, you can
I was
loosely
thinking
call
of
it
a
that.
better word. If
That
you
sound
take-
was a microphone dropping to the ground.
if you take a company like HP that is huge and at the time running very well and pretty much almost kill it, I don't know. I don't like the term disqualifies, and I know it was in the news today, but I think that really should take you off the list for viable candidates. If you can't
What was
run,
in the news?
the president's spokesman said something about Trump's comments should disqualify him for running for office or something.
Okay.
But I just, if you can't run a major corporation, how can you run a major country? And
Well, to be fair, none of the other candidates, with the possible exception of Donald Trump, who's only gone bankrupt a few times, none of them have run successful businesses, right?
well, and I agree. But if you actually are put in that opportunity and you fail miserably, I think that says something.
Okay. Got anything?
On
Any
Carly?
comments? On Carly, yeah. Which she's carlyforpresident.com, so she is kind of going by her first name. So anyway,
I
just
think
thought that was
that's
interesting.
smart, actually, because
I
I
do
think
too.
her last name is not necessarily easy to pronounce, and that's always.
I agree.
I have that last name.
I agree.
I
Yeah.
don't intend to use my last name.
When you run for president?
Rhonda for District 4 City Council.
I thought you were
Endorsement
Rhonda
from the
for
right.
president.
here.
Vote
Mark
Rhonda.
Becker will
Vote Rhonda.
endorse Rhonda Sitnica.
Not vote Rhonda Sitnica.
Right.
Anyway, the obviously doctored videos that she decided to toss out was not a wise choice, and that was something that I just was mortified by. So
Okay, and those were of what?
With Planned Parenthood, the abortion videos.
So politically, you think that that's probably bad for her? Like, aside from the fact that I know
It
you
is
di-
bad
I
for
know you
her.
disagree
That
with
it
her,
was
but,
proven that they were doctored, and then she quickly dove in the polls
but
after
even if
that.
they weren't, I feel like that was a mistake for her. She had the opportunity. She is a woman. She had the opportunity to, allow a certain degree of that of women who support abortion.
I think as a
wanna vote
woman, you shouldn't attack abortion in general, the way she did.
Yeah.
Right, but we can't
versus-
have a different standard for a woman versus a male. If they're conservative and
True.
they believe
But if you're
that
right,
they're
but if you're a
anti-abortion,
woman
they're
looking,
anti-abortion.
but I'm talking strategically.
Yeah.
If you're a woman looking for
and I was too.
votes,
Yeah.
that's not what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bothers me though. That again gets back to the point of too formulaic for me. I believe even if you're a woman, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe.
Sure.
I don't agree with it, but
But she
just
lied.
because you're female doesn't mean that you have to have a specific viewpoint.
I
No,
wanna
but if you
comment on
wanna-
that
if
for
you-
a second.
But if you want to, and I'm maybe not as maybe I am for I'm just if you want to win an election, you need to get women to vote for you.
Yep.
Period.
But then that would disqualify almost every Republican candidate. Because
Well, I think
That's
I-
right.
I think we've noticed in the last 8 years that it has.
That's
Well,
the entire point.
The comment I was going to make, and this plays into the narrative that you're saying, I'm staunchly pro-life. I want to say this carefully because I don't want to compromise my position on it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mistake for a lot of candidates to make that fight, especially in a primary or right now, because, well, it's not legislation that's on the table. It's not things that are really going to be changing anytime soon. It's kind of what the law is. So, I mean, I guess if you make your position known, fine. But to really
I would like to know who she
champion
was
that
literally.
cause.
Who was she trying to target when she did that? Is what
Yeah.
I'd like to
Well,
know.
so as a non-politically savvy outsider, those are the kinds of mistakes that outsiders tend to make.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump makes those mistakes. Ben Carson makes those mistakes. She makes those mistakes. So
But I go back again.
that's why they don't get elected.
Would she, if she came out and said, "Yeah, I'm pro-choice," do you think she would win on the Republican primary side?
I think she could have
She's not
avoided
going
it.
to win anyway.
Yeah, I think
Right.
she
My
could have
question
avoided
is,
it.
though, let's say hypothetically she were, one of the front runners, and she came out and said, "I'm pro-choice, and we're not going to do anything against Planned Parenthood, et cetera, et cetera." Do you think she'd survive the primaries?
Her, no. A different candidate, maybe.
So
How about she comes out and talks about equal pay versus abortion in
Right.
general? Because how many women would
Right.
actually discount? Who's going to say, "Oh, actually, I'd rather not have as much money as my husband"? Who's going to
So
say
again, I
that?
would go back to find me those women that are willing to be underpaid, and I would like to hire them.
Exactly. They're
so-
not out there.
The I think she's actually battling for vice president position because she knows the race is probably against
I agree
Hillary,
with you. I agree with
and she knows I'm the front runner as far as the females go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Jim Gilmore,
Who's that?
Huh?
former governor of Virginia, less than 1% in the polls.
you. Moving on.
yeah,
Moving
I
on.
think we
Okay.
just got them.
That you know what? I just put him in here because he's in the list.
I didn't even think he made the undercard debate last time.
No, I don't think so. And so in one of the polls, he was listed as NA. So
He's probably got his feet kicked up in his.
Can we talk about
in his living
Kasich?
room.
We haven't talked
two
about
more.
Kasich, right?
Yeah.
get there.
So let's get through these couple. Do Kasich, and then we'll do another Twitter question. I think. Lindsey Graham. Anything?
No, not.
Okay.
You should drop out.
yeah.
Okay. So he is at 0% in
Nicely done.
across the board in polls.
He's a
So-
token Southern boy.
okay.
What annoys me about him is it just seems like he's always telling you the sky's falling. Every interview I see with him, it's like, oh, we've got to do this because we're going to get attacked. We're going to get attacked. We're going to get attacked. And I think after a while, people just tune him out.
I think we spent too much time on Lindsey Graham.
Fair
I'm just
enough.
gonna
Mike Huckabee.
say. Kim Davis.
Yep. That's about it.
Okay.
That's all
you
I
had
need.
asked Elliot.
He's at 2%.
Yep. You had asked it, earlier before about who our least favorite candidate is. It's something that I was thinking about. Mike Huckabee is my least favorite candidate.
He's a
And
likable guy, though.
I don't like him.
I like the guy, but I
truly
just
do
don't
not
I
like
don't
him.
see him
No.
cut
He's
out
very
to be
he's cheesy.
a leader.
Okay.
I think he's pompous. I mean, I think he's like Rick Santorum is. It's all about religion for him,
Right.
and it just drives me absolutely crazy.
I remember
No.
last time that he ran, he had a TV ad, and they had strategically set up a Christmas tree with a reflection, and it ended up having a cross on the back window, and I found it so just annoying.
Well, I actually hope that I don't have anything against Christians. I don't have anything against Muslims.
Oh,
but
no.
I don't think that a party should be run by a religion.
I totally agree.
And I think that him at 2%, I think that speaks volumes. And I hope that the Republican Party does not bring people like that to the forefront again.
That's why him and Rick Santorum are just.
Okay. So Rick Santorum is at 0.33%. So anybody have anything to say about him?
See Mike Huckabee?
It's a good spot for him.
Okay, and then John Kasich.
John, what's going on? He could be doing so much better than he is.
Okay. And why?
Yeah,
why
he's actually one. If the world,
right.
exploded, and there had to be, and there
Hillary Clinton got, she's off. She's out of the.
She's in
running.
jail.
if I had to,
That was very good.
was
Gotta say.
Well timed.
Walker will go to jail before she does. Anyway, he would be, if I had to stomach a candidate, from the Republican side, he would be the one.
Okay.
Didn't
why
he
do you
also
say
do
that,
the
though?
same thing in Ohio with the union? The
Yes.
same thing that Walker did.
Yes.
So
But he
But
did
I want to
it-
know why Rhonda. I want to hear what Rhonda has to say about this one. I'm interested. Why do you?
Well, his state's
the
doing
Kasich law?
his. I think he's reasonable. I think he's realistic. I think he actually is living in today versus,
He has a
20,000
track record
BC.
of
And he has
leadership and
he has a
and
leadership
being in
track record
office.
as well as his state is doing well. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to campaign for president and you're in any sort of state government, how do you not look back and say, well, guess what, my state, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, if no one is asking the questions about, well, what's going on in your state, nobody wanted to ask Scott Walker that question, and they should have. I never heard any of that during the debates.
Except from Trump.
Well, but I mean, I think
terrible.
his
So
state's doing
on
well.
on a side
so-
note, I feel like I really wanted Walker to succeed, and I felt like I sort of agreed with not necessarily the way he went about it, but some of the things he did. But our state isn't doing awesome. So what do you say about that? And you could talk about Kasich too. I'm just wondering about that.
Well, with Kasich, I mean, I think that the biggest thing with him is he torpedoed any of his chances. If you guys saw that last debate where he was just a whiny little kid, it was really awful, and it was not a good showing at all. I totally agree with you. I
With
think
me? Say the name. Who do you agree with? Say it.
I
Say
agree
it.
with my say it. I agree with my BFF Rhonda, who I totally endorse for District 4.
She just had a
Ron-
Heisenberg moment, right?
Rhonda for
Say
District
my
4.
name. Say it.
No, I totally agree with Rhonda.
For District
And-
4.
And I think Kasich is, a little bit more of the progressive Republican that understands, the mood of the country, and I think that's really, really important. Why is Wisconsin not doing well? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think what happened in Act 10 was okay. You talked about insurance. There's no bigger racket that was going on with the state of Wisconsin than WEA Trust. What they were doing was absolutely ridiculous, and they didn't want to come to the table, so they were forced to the table. And it happened, and it did save the state a lot of money. Why are we not doing well now? I don't know.
Well, when you
I
take
think
and
it
you
takes
give
some time for those
corporations.
things
I
to
agree.
start to manifest themselves. I mean,
Well,
you have to
those
set up
companies,
the-
nothing's happening at this point because those companies are literally leaving the state. So they took the money and they ran, is what happened.
Okay, so we did have a Twitter question. Unless Adam, do you have
When
anything
you
on
answer
about
your
Kasich?
question, I'll answer mine.
I think I said it. I mean, he's got some proven leadership. He has success in his past, and I think he would be a viable candidate had he not.
Well, and
kinda-
I think he could garner some centrist votes, but apparently
so
we don't
too.
want somebody like that. We want Ted Cruz or Donald Trump. So, what was our Twitter question? Do we have that? Maybe. Yes, we do. Another one from Jacob Jones. This is a great question. So, how do you think the election scene will be different in 30 years? This is a great question. I think this is an awesome question. Because you could, I mean, there's lots of
Wow.
directions for that, right?
We'll have the Whig
Voting
party
by
back.
Twitter.
Okay.
No, 'cause-
Okay. So
Twitter will not exist in 30 years, I don't think.
I was,
Right.
yeah,
So there,
yeah.
but there's
I
there's
was
two
kidding.
aspects of that, right? There's the society component where things have changed in society. Like gay marriage is a lot more accepted. Hopefully, the abortion thing will be not talked about in 30 years. And then there's the technology aspect. So how do those things play in?
I think the social issues that we debate about now won't even be discussed then. There'll be other issues probably, but I think, as you said, with gay marriage, you go back 5-10 years ago, it was a huge issue, and
Well, it was toxic for either party, really. They couldn't, like, even Obama.
Right.
His ideas were evolving on it.
evolving. Yes,
In a debate against John McCain, I remember this distinctly.
Yeah.
John McCain said, "I agree, marriage is between one man and one woman," and Barack Obama's like, "Holy crap, we agree on something." that's what he said. He's like, "Well, I think this is something that we actually agree on."
Yeah.
So yeah, and then how
Right.
and
changed quite drastically.
when I talk
Yeah.
to young people like my children and such, there are certain things that really don't matter to them. Race does not matter to them. Religion doesn't matter to them. A lot of the social issues, gay, straight, whatever, doesn't matter to them. And I think we're seeing more and more of that. So I don't think a lot of the social issues that we fight about. I think some of the fiscal social issues, such as entitlements and such, will still be a thing. But I just don't see a lot of the, like the gay marriage and stuff, even being a part of the discussion then.
I think the parties that as we see them now are going to evolve into something pretty unrecognizable, if they even
In 30
exist at
years,
all.
though?
In 30 years, yeah, I think so. There's going to be a significant difference. I mean, look at 30 years ago. The parties were much different positions. I mean,
Republicans believed in not spending money.
we all talk about
What?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. My biggest concern is in 30 years, I think it's going to be just a whole bunch of political parties of one billionaire, or a group of billionaires. When it gets to the point where all of your candidates have a billionaire or a group of billionaires backing them, and you're spending billions of dollars per candidate to get elected, how's that sustainable? I don't know.
Billionaire is not a dirty word. I just want to say that
Thank
as
you.
a Democrat. I do, because I think that's, in millionaires, billionaires, we need people that are in.
She's
that-
pandering to notable
No,
Democrat.
I'm not pandering. I
Gates.
No,
really-
she's that's legit.
I really feel
yeah.
this way, and I think what we need to do is we need to make these people accountable and make them play fair. I am not one to use that as a dirty word, because I think that that is part of why I get work. That's part of why
I get work.
we're sitting in this building. I mean, I think that has to be part of an economy, but you have to be able to get these people to play fairly. And I think that I'm hopeful that in 30 years that we will have come to some sort of, idea of how to do that.
Well, when you have the ability to do advertising and you call it, issue-based advertising, and that issue is, hey, vote Republican, and you don't have to disclose who pays for it, that concerns me still. And I don't, necessarily have a good solution for it, but when people can just hide behind, fake organizations and spend billions to influence candidates, and those candidates really only care about what that group says.
I feel like
That's
I
concerning.
feel like the media is evolving too, though. So I think some of those things will
Yes.
take care of themselves. We
I
do have a
agree.
global internet that allows communication to spread.
We
more
have a
quickly.
global
So-
internet, but as you and I very well know, it's controlled by a very small group of companies now. And I don't necessarily want to say control, maybe influenced.
who are all liberal, by the way.
You
The
know,
Google guys, the Facebook guys.
they may be, the
Apple
people who
guys.
run
Crap.
them may be liberal, but I think, and Elliot and I have talked about this before, businesses are in the business of making money.
Right.
And they will run the ads for whatever organization they can without, going to a place where it's an illegal thing. They'll run those ads.
You don't think that'll change within 30 years?
No.
Okay.
What I think would be nice is we have, like you said, your children, people, younger people. My daughter, she doesn't look at anyone as being black, white. She doesn't care if they're married to a man or woman. She doesn't care about that. So her candidates in 30 years shouldn't be able to take her and maneuver her into an area where they forget about economy, they forget about jobs, they forget about healthcare, they forget about the very basic things that they actually need to live versus I don't like you because you look this way or you believe in this religion.
Right.
So I think that that's something that I'm hopeful that that's actually what's going to happen is they're going to actually look at real issues.
I agree with you, and I think that not just majority of of Democrats look at that way, or majority of children or whatever. I think the majority of Americans.
So we're all going to be
That
more
view.
accepting.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of been the
100%.
trend
Okay.
all along.
And I think
since
that's
our
okay.
inception
So I
as a
think that's
country.
pretty obvious. Anything else on the 30-year thing? Otherwise, we'll hit our
Well,
candidates
the
again.
point that I was going to finish was,
Good.
look at some of the Democratic candidates 30 years ago. There are a few that could easily be shoehorned into the Republican Party as of today.
Yeah.
And I think that trend is even going to continue further in 30 years.
So you think the parties are going to come together, or they're going to find different issues to be divided on?
I think they'll find different issues to be divided on. But I think there's people that, maybe would sit on the left today that might, or vice versa, might
Okay.
fit comfortably on the opposite aisle.
What I would find interesting is, will we still have just a two-party system, or will a third party truly, rise to that level? Is that
So
even-
America is all about first and second place, and after second place, things just fall off a cliff,
Right.
right? So there's Google and Bing, and then what? There's
Absolutely.
Facebook and Twitter, and then what? Right? There's a lot of that. So it's
Do you think that
Coke
would
and Pepsi,
continue
and then what?
forever?
So
I think,
I
that's
think
probably
it's
gonna
sort
be
of
the line.
inevitable, and if anything, a new
Two-party
one will take
system,
its place,
indefinitely.
but there's going to be two permanent parties, I think.
See, where I see the difficulty of those, you have libertarians and you have the
And they're
conservatives.
and they're all considered extremists.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. But I think at some point, libertarians, there's so many things that they are still different on. And I think, maybe the Libertarian Party would be a viable third party.
Right. But then one of the other ones I think would be
I agree. I think the other one
Eaten
would
up by
fall
that.
off.
That's like the bisexual of the political world.
I resemble that remark.
That's got to
Okay.
be the quote that goes under your caption.
I'm sorry,
So,
it is.
all right,
It's like
I do want to get through
Pickling.
all the candidates
All
because
right.
I feel like if we said some of them, we're not going to be fair or something, right? So George Pateki, anything? He's at 0%.
Should be out of the race already.
Okay.
Yep.
Rand Paul, the divisive Rand Paul.
I did a political survey and discovered that my political inclinations line up 97% with Rand Paul. So I should really, really like that guy.
Okay.
Where was
and
the
I
3%?
kind of do.
Okay.
But I guess I'd like him to be a little bit more. I'm trying to think of the right word, but just be a little bit more approachable on the national stage, so he doesn't become so polarizing, divisive.
But maybe you're polarizing because you agree with him 97% of the time.
I could be. I mean, I did throw some incendiary comments out here today.
What do you think, Mark?
He's an isolationist, and you can't be in this day and age. We need
Okay.
to lead, and he's not the one to do it.
Okay. Daniel.
I'm so tempted to respond to that, but I
So what? What would you respond?
we talk about isolationists, but we also don't have to be the world's police in everywhere.
Well, Hillary Clinton would disagree with you.
So he likes
And-
Rand Paul.
Right.
So Rand Paul's your guy, then, right?
I would say, when it comes to military spending, we spend so much more on military spending than we do on education and so many other areas. We spend way too much in military. And when I say military, I'm not saying necessarily military because there's so much else involved with that. It's a huge percentage of our overall budget. And, for Republicans who talk about spending, but when you say, well, let's cut this program that the military doesn't even want, well, no, we can't do that.
So if Hillary Clinton drops out, he's your guy.
Oh, he might have been, but then he went and, went with the anti-abortion and the religious side of it, which to me, if you're libertarian, that shouldn't even be a factor.
I agree with you. You got anything on that?
I've taken quite a few surveys that tell me I'm a libertarian.
Interesting.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. But I would never entertain the idea.
Okay.
So I think those are flawed, by the way.
He considers himself to be a Republican the last time I checked, but okay. Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go back over to Rand.
He considers himself to be no, go back to that.
Rand Paul, he's a Republican. He runs as a Republican. He's not a libertarian. There's a Libertarian Party. He's a
Doesn't
Republican.
it? So is his father?
He's also a Republican.
Then
He'd
who am I
run as a-
thinking of?
Well,
But
it's
this
just-
gets back to what I was saying about that separation with libertarians
what's
and
his name?
conservatives.
Sanders is a socialist, but he runs as a Democrat
Yeah.
because if he was a socialist, he wouldn't even get on the freaking ballot.
Right.
Right.
He wouldn't,
Ron-
he
Ron
wouldn't be in a
Paul-
debate.
Ron
Just-
Paul, Rand Paul, they have to
And-
run as
okay,
Republicans
so
because
the
then you get the big
labels
stage.
again. Okay,
Correct.
so
Yep.
who are we talking about again?
Marco
We
Rubio.
moved on to Marco Rubio.
Oh, I think if he changed his hairstyle, and I'm totally serious about this, it's horrific. It makes him look like he's 75.
Okay, and your occupation is?
I'm a stylist.
Okay.
So you'd vote for him if he changed his hair?
No, I think I'm just.
But he does have, there's something. There's
No,
something
I think
there.
it would actually help him out a lot. He looks he looks stuffy to me. He just doesn't look like, because obviously you want to get some younger people to the table,
Yeah.
right, in an
And
election.
He's a relatively young guy.
He's but I keep looking at his hair. I'm like, dude, fix your hair. Like, it's the car salesman. Sorry,
And you,
comb
and that,
over.
like, that
He's
doesn't
trying to
matter to
say.
you because you wouldn't vote for him.
I wouldn't
either
vote for him,
way,
but I think
But you think that would help him
I
get
think-
elected?
What about on
He
the
just-
substance?
on substance, well, I think he's parrots a lot of the other guys, and I don't think there's anything sparkly about him at all.
Okay.
And supposedly he has a lot of issues financially as
Oh,
president,
Okay.
is what I've been reading. I don't know.
Okay.
So
You
I
got
don't.
anything, Daniel?
No, I honestly have nothing on him.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with Ron on that because
What?
He-
Say that again.
I
Say it into
agree
the microphone.
that he does not
Far too much
have-
agreeing on here. We're
he
not going
does
to get the
not have
ratings.
a
We
lot
can't do
of
this again.
things that make him dynamic. He's not a standout for me in the crowd. He doesn't have original ideas. He doesn't have things that.
But he did have a
attract
really
me
good
to him.
moment during that debate when Jeb Bush tried to
Yes,
nail
he
him to
did.
something, and then he came back. That was actually.
But he was ready for that. I mean, because they were talking
Well,
about
they
that,
knew
I
he
think,
was going to
before.
hit him.
Yeah.
I like
So-
Rubio. I like him a lot. I think he's young. I think he can get some of the young people if he maybe changes his.
So after
hair.
Trump,
No,
after Cruz, he is next.
Rubio's my guy.
He's the third place guy right
That's I like Rubio.
now. Okay. And then, all right. We'll start with you again. Rick Santorum. He is at 0.33%. Anything to say? Or do we put him in the...
We already
you
covered
should-
him.
You should be on the O pile. Anybody?
He's
Good.
out.
He sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our whole list of the two major parties, but there is an announced candidate for the Green Party. I
Ralph
don't know if you
Nader.
guys know that, right?
No.
You're not aware?
I'm not aware until I saw
I'm
it
not
on
a
your list.
Green
Okay.
Party.
Green Party, that's Democrat.
So this
light.
is another non-politician
extreme.
physician, Jill Stein, Jill2016.com.
Didn't she
Again,
run
going by her
before?
first
The name
name.
sounds familiar.
I think that's interesting. I don't know anything about her.
Yeah.
So
No, I don't know.
okay. If we don't have any other Twitter questions, I don't know how much time we got left. Okay, so we'll do one.
You know, the one topic I did want to talk about is the debate process. And
Okay,
Elliot, you
go
and
ahead.
I have talked about this.
Go
quite
ahead,
a
yeah.
bit. The kids' table bothers me. It really does. And I understand the Republicans have so many candidates that you could probably fill a stadium, it feels like at times. But if you allow polls by a small group of organizations to define who's the serious candidate and who's not, that
But
bothers
that's how
me.
we keep
That's
third
how you
parties
do
out
it,
too.
man. That's politics,
Yeah,
buddy.
but that's all.
I don't think we've ever done this kids table thing.
You want to know what? The Republican Party doesn't like the kids' table either.
So what do you do?
What do you do?
Do you make the debates twice
Right.
as long and have everybody on stage?
I don't think that's the answer.
No, I don't think that's the answer either. I think you just eliminate it.
So they don't even get they don't get a voice at all.
Hell no. You earn your place at that big kids' table.
And you earn it how? By being a career politician
No, I mean, look at.
or a
But
work
setting yourself
billionaire.
apart
much
by
as
being
I-
dynamic and making something interesting about yourself so
Hold
that
on. As much as I dislike Rick Santorum, at the outset of last year's presidential campaign cycle, he was like, last. And what did he do? He drove around Iowa in the stupid red pickup truck,
Yeah.
and he won. So, do that.
But
Be
now he's-
that
but
guy.
he's at 0.33% again.
Well, he's not. No, what I'm saying is, you asked how to get
Yeah.
off the kids' table.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Okay.
Shock
knock
the
on,
world.
knock on doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that with the way that we're doing this process now, you basically are at the kids' table for one event and then you're dropping out. You know, I'm just not sure that that's the right way to handle it. You know,
I disagree.
so
Can I have a question about the kids'
Carly
table?
Fiorina had no. Go ahead.
Well, she was never
Okay.
at the kids' table, was she?
No,
She was.
yeah,
was
she
she?
was at the kids' table and then she complained enough to get on the
Oh, that's
main
right.
No,
table.
she didn't. She
She complained. She even stated
no,
that
she
she
did
was.
not.
that she had, pushed and got her
Okay.
way.
Who decides? What is the logistics of deciding the kids' table?
It's up to the network.
Last major polls they usually go
Yeah.
off of. So
But
they just take
it's
whoever's
kind
on the
of
top.
they change the rules.
So it's
as
the
they go
network
along.
who's going to give them more ratings.
Right.
Right.
So we're back to
Yep. It's biased. Yeah.
media.
So the other thing about the debate that bothered me a lot was that the first Republican debate was on CNBC. So the only people who can watch the debate are wealthy Republicans.
You and I have talked
who have
about
cable.
this constantly.
Like I think that's not right. I think that again I feel like the media has a responsibility
Yes.
to
Well,
do these things.
Part of the problem, though, is you've got 75 channels now, all on cable, and
It should
each
be
one
on
of them
all
want to
of
have their
them.
piece of the pie now.
It should be on every
Okay,
single one
but
of
if
them.
you're that's the point. You shouldn't actually have it on cable. You should have it be everyone can.
It should be
see
everywhere.
This
It should be everywhere. And if
right.
and if CNBC doesn't want to pocket it to broadcast it online, then I'm sorry. Then the Republican Party should.
But my question is,
Right, I agree.
let's say that all the cable networks say,
This is
okay, we're going to give this feed to the broadcast networks. Do you think the broadcast networks would actually want to show each of
But
those
then
debates?
they should be
Well,
they should be
no,
chastised for that. Then
Well,
they should be called out. They should
right.
be called out, and you get to use the public airwaves. You're not doing your.
So who
your-
do you
Well,
actually
here-
think?
here's
What
the
about
thing.
alternative
Hold on.
media?
Yeah, but
Who's not watching
okay.
it?
I
So-
didn't get to watch it. I don't have cable.
No, but I mean, but that's my question: is who do we believe actually isn't getting to watch the debates? Like, what group of, what demographic is this intentional?
I have to
Young
watch
people?
it on YouTube the next day.
right.
right,
Right.
right.
I mean,
Did I hit your
How many
softball?
people do you think do watch it on YouTube?
I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah, but they only had clips. I mean, I didn't see. Maybe now
They had
but
they
I
had
didn't
the
see
whole
thing.
ones. It was like they had 1 through 16.
Who's
You'd
to
have
say it wouldn't be a
it's
good
lot of
idea
work.
I
to
consider myself to be a
broadcast it
relatively
online?
savvy individual. I did not see an immediate way to watch it online.
Oh, really?
I didn't.
I don't
think
think it
I'm
was
one of
very
the
clear
only
either.
people that I know. Well, this isn't true. One of the only people that, among probably if I had to take 10 people that don't actually, I have cable.
Yeah.
Many people do not have cable.
I don't.
I don't have
Right.
cable.
So who are they actually?
Yes.
It's
they were,
funny
they
though,
were
we-
targeting my parents. I understand.
Right,
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. The vast majority of
didn't
people
watch
who
it.
still subscribe
Right?
to cable are older.
Well, I think if
Right.
the
Right.
Republicans wanted to attract the young people, they would have done a live streaming debate
agree.
online.
Right.
So they did not.
Well,
I
it's
wouldn't
up.
know this.
From what I understand, it's up to. I know it's up to the political parties to set how many primary debates that they have, and then it's up to the networks how they stream it. But I think, like you say, the respective parties should say, okay, if you're only going to put this on CNBC, it's going to be live streamed on our website. If you don't like it, well,
Yep. Yep. And then make
That's
that
exactly
an
how it
issue.
should
Make
be.
that a CNBC.
I
I
totally
think
agree.
access
on
to
that.
more information, no
Is
matter
always good.
what,
We
is
have better
important.
access to guns than we have to
to debates.
debates.
Yep, absolutely.
She is a soundbite
There's
master.
another quote.
Soundbite
Am I
master.
wrong?
Rhonda Sitnikau on point.
Okay.
Am I
so
wrong?
So, were there any candidates that were at the kids' table that you guys, those of you who support Republicans, is there anyone who sat at the kids' table who you would have liked to seen go
Dude,
further?
there are too many people at the freaking adults table. for
Right, but my
God's
question
sakes.
is specific.
So no,
there was
the
no
thi-
one at the kids'
to
table.
answer
that
I
your
you-
think it broke
specific
down
question?
exactly how as
No.
it should have.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think the kids' table was appropriate.
So, all right, last question, and then, well, sorry, I mean it's already like 100 o'clock.
100 o'clock.
So, like 2-part question, like really brief if you want to elaborate on it, but favorite candidate and why potentially, and who you think is most likely to win. So, we'll start with Rhonda.
Can you repeat that?
Your favorite candidate and who you think is most likely to win. If not that same person, if it's the same person. that's fine.
I'm my favorite. I don't. Do I have to use that word? I think the
No.
most electable. Is that a word? Candidate is Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
I do believe so. I think she appeals to moderates. I think she appeals to, really the group that needs to.
So
she
by
needs to
favorite,
appeal
I guess
to.
I meant aligns most closely with your values.
Probably Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Yeah, I do not.
I
See,
figured.
yeah, I don't see myself as. I try to be more pragmatic and real about how things can shake out, and I just don't see. I don't see that with Bernie Sanders. I agree with a lot of things he has to say, and I would love to see that, but I don't think a lot of it's realistic.
be done in a regular election.
No, I have people
How are
literally.
you going to pay for it?
No, I have people that
Right.
call me and they
Yeah.
they want to bring me Bernie signs every day, and I'm being Bernie bullied right now.
Yeah.
I am, and that's fine. And I like it when people are passionate about
He
their
has passion. I like that too.
that's
Yeah.
fine. But passion doesn't pay the bills, so
No.
that's not my guy.
All right.
This is such a rough question for me because really I'm not energized by any of the candidates. There's
Well,
a
it's
lot-
not like this is being recorded and it can be played back later.
Right, yeah.
You're good.
I think I have to agree with most of what Rhonda said. I there are certain things that I like that Sanders is saying, and certain things that I agree with. I think Hillary is probably the most electable, and I think if you compare her to any of the Republican candidates, any of them, she's going to win.
Okay. Regardless of the fact that in head-to-head matchups, she oftentimes does not.
I truly
According to
believe
polls.
that once you get into the general,
Okay.
she would win.
I think I actually agree with that. It doesn't make me happy, but I kind of agree with that.
My favorite candidate is Jeb Bartlett from the West Wing. I think that
I
guy would be
agree.
awesome.
Nice.
But right, and no, that's running. I think I like Marco Rubio. I think he's great. I think he's strong.
Especially if he gets a new haircut.
Yeah, we can work on that.
No, he just has to change the part. He doesn't have to have an
Just to-
actual different
down the
haircut.
middle.
Well, it's the car salesman. You
It-
work with car salesmen. You know it's like.
So do
way
you think
over
he's
here.
electable?
I do.
Okay.
I really do
So
because
he's the most likely to win?
I think he's the most likely to win the Republican nomination because the early states, once those are out of the way,
And he
'cause
beats
those are
Hillary.
kind of a bleep show.
And he beats Hillary.
I think he can.
Okay. All right.
Well, we discussed my favorite candidate. I like Ben Carson, and the pyramids thing doesn't bother me. I mean, he was 17. Come on.
Okay. I didn't realize he was 17 when he said it, to be fair. But he's also, rolled back a bunch of other things that he said previously. And like I was asked to go to this school and that school, and they're like, no.
You could bring up the same thing about any one of the candidates that we've talked about all night. they've all got
They're career
skeletons.
politicians, so
Exactly.
they've already been through that.
Right.
So they know what answers
Vetted.
to give. They've been vetted. Yeah.
Nonetheless, he remains my favorite candidate.
And most likely to be elected.
Most likely to be elected, I think. On the Republican side, it's going to come down to the popularity contest. It's going to be a Cruz or a Rubio, or I think Trump has some staying power that doesn't make
Who
me
actually
happy,
thinks
but
that Donald Trump is really and truly, a legitimate candidate though?
No.
I
what
just
is it?
don't think he is.
What is it? 38% of the Republican
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
But
polled?
that's not enough to get him elected.
Okay, it's so early though.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, wait till like South Carolina or some of those later voting states because you don't elect your nominee in the first
8 years
5
ago, if you would have said,
states.
well, maybe a little more than 8 years now, but 8 years ago, if you would have said that Barack Obama would have been elected, most
no
people
one
would
knew who
have
he
been
was.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think
You're
it's a little
totally
different
right.
with Trump because Trump is everywhere, and
Yeah, and he's a known.
But
he's a known
but do you
quantity.
think there's a
Mhm.
possibility that he's actually been? I just think it's like a ruse. I think he's been put into it to basically come out, be this bombastic, asshat,
Right.
and then he does all of this.
Now we can't play this in school.
Sorry.
But he, I, mean,
I
he is-
honestly,
And then all of a sudden, someone comes into the 11th hour and steps in, and they're like, all right,
I honestly
we'll
think
take
when
you.
it all shakes down, it's going to end up being either Rubio or Cruz, and I
Yeah.
think either one of those people has the ability to beat Hillary.
don't-
honestly, I
don't
would be
believe Cruz
shocked
does.
if
I don't think
either
Cruz
of them.
does.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up. So I want to thank you guys. I thought you were awesome.
Thank you, man.
We'll
This
see.
was
Thank
so much
you.
fun.
We'll
that was
see.
cool.
If
See
you're
what
on
the ratings
Twitter,
say if we're gonna
you know
come
what?
back.
You should totally. If you're on Twitter, you should totally talk about how awesome all my guests are. So Adam Funk and we. This is part 2, so this is a separate episode. So I didn't go through all of your esteemed credentials again. I don't think anybody will watch them out of order, but I do want to call out your awesome blog, howtobeswell.org.
Thank you, sir.
It's howtobeswell.com, not .org.
Yes, not
You're
.org.
not- you're not Ted Cruz.
Howtobeswell.com.
And Mark Becker. I don't know which of your things you're most proud of, but
Proud of being a daddy.
being a daddy.
Yes.
Okay.
Through
Well,
Charlie.
you didn't put that on
I
your
didn't
list.
know if that was something.
Okay.
Well, I did. You totally could have.
Whatever, man.
Mr. Jones. Anything else? Anything you want to say? I
This
know
was-
what Rhonda wants to say. So
This was great. I think doing this is something that should happen more often.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yep.
being here. Thanks for being a sponsor, by the way.
Absolutely.
And Rhonda, you got to plug your campaign. So
Well,
you're required.
I'm running for city council in District 4, and I'm very excited about it.
In
but
Green Bay.
In Green Bay.
Because we are listened to worldwide.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah, actually.
And I am very excited to
one
know
in
that
Japan.
there are multiple people running in my district. I think it was 7 out of 12 districts ran unopposed last time, and that's never accept. You should never accept that. It should be a very different environment.
So if we have a
in
candidate
city
forum,
politics.
you will come.
I actually would love you to have a candidate forum, and I think
second
that's
that
some-
strongly.
No, I
Okay.
think that's
Absolutely.
something that sometimes our local media doesn't. It's impossible to really have the right amount of conversation and the right questions asked, and to hear from the people that you need to hear from in the city.
Such
They
a
make
good
very
vehicle for that.
well, and we
Yeah.
make in the city council and the county they make very important decisions every day, and they're not asked enough questions. There's not enough conversation happening, and I really hope you do that.
One thing
I'm
I-
all
No,
in. We just
just
got to get
spent-
everybody to show
we
up.
spent the last 2 hours talking about presidential politics. The city and the county that has the most direct impact on your lives. Period.
Well, and you feel that like every
Yep.
time they make decisions every day that you immediately can feel.
Right.
We have some
and-
people
So
on
obviously
council
we
that
could
often-
probably go for like another week on this, right? But
Yeah.
I think we're going to close up. Normally I reach across the table, shake my guest's hand, and we have some closing music. I don't think we have any closing music necessarily.
Before we end, real quick, I
Uh-oh.
do want to say something.
Uh-oh. One more
I
announcement.
think it's important to thank the people who submitted questions via Twitter.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
That was
absolutely
Yes.
very helpful.
Yes. Yes. Some of them are here with us, and some of them are at home. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for that. And I think we're all set.